All right.
Be like da 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 da. This
There
is
we
the
go.
intro music. Da
Yeah.
da 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 da. What's up, everybody? What's going on?
All right, let's go. What's up, y'all? So tonight we're joined by our homeboy Jerry over at Exposing Powerful Lies live streams,
Yep.
and we've got a good analysis tonight, I think, because we're
Mm.
doing the film Prisoners, 2013 film Prisoners, and there are a bunch of analyses of this, but I haven't seen anything recently. There were a lot when it first came out, and I think JD even did an essay analysis of this, but I can't find it.
Oh,
Um,
really?
but yeah, but it's a great film to do because first of all, I think this is definitely one of the best movies of the last 20 years. I mean, it's so good, it's so well done, and it's also right before Denis Villeneuve, the director, went on to do the big films. He did this, and then he did Arrival, and then he did
Oh,
Dune. Yeah.
I never seen Arrival. He did
Oh
Dune
yeah.
though.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He did Dune. He's doing. He's done a bunch of stuff since then. But in 2013, I remember I found out about this movie before it came out because I was reading an article about Jake Gyllenhaal in, I don't know, one of the magazines, and it had an interview with him because they were filming the movie Enemy,
Right.
which was going to be called An Enemy first. It's a doppelganger film. One of the great. It's another one of these great movies. And this and that movie came out in the same year.
Really.
And so it's yeah. I mean, it's so good. So I thought that we would just go through the movie and
Yeah.
analyze some of the symbolism. I mean, it's
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 so thick, dude.
it
I
is.
actually had never heard of this movie
Yeah.
until you brought it up. I think you brought it up in the JD live chat or
Yeah.
something, like just
Yeah.
the other day. And then Jethro was like, "Oh, you got to watch it." So I just watched it for the first time the other day, and it's so dark, man. It's such a dark
Yeah.
film. It covers some topics that we're gonna have to tread lightly on while we
Right.
while we talk today and use
Yeah.
our code words or whatever. But
Right.
yeah, as far as films go, like it's a really well done film. It's really good. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it's like one of the best movies I've seen, but like it's done with precision. It's executed well. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? High tier filmmaking, and yeah, the symbolism is so thick in it. You know.
Yeah. I think it's really good because it's kind of like it's like this and Children of Men,
Yeah.
which is by Quaron, and then There Will Be Blood are these three movies that are not really accessible to like a mass audience. I mean, they became popular and they're well done, but they're
Dude,
not. What?
speaking of There Will Be Blood not
Yeah,
being accessible to a
yeah,
mass audience,
yeah.
yeah, like I remember when that film came out. Me and my best friend Gus is a huge film nerd, just like me, and he went to see There Will Be Blood thinking it was a horror movie because it's called There Will Be Blood, and
Uh-huh.
so he walked out halfway through. He's like, "What the hell is this?" And
Yeah,
then for years
yeah,
afterwards, every time it would come up, he'd be like, "That movie sucks, bro," and I'm like, "Dude." Dude, you gotta
yeah,
rewatch it.
yeah.
It's
It's
not a horror movie. And then
it's so good.
eventually years later he came back around and was
Yeah.
like, "Dude, that movie's a masterpiece." I'm like, "Yeah,
I drink your milkshake.
right." And Paul Dano in There Will Be Blood was
Yeah,
also in this film, and he
yeah,
plays such a good character in this
yeah.
movie.
Well, Paul Dano
Man.
also plays two characters in that movie. Remember, and one of the things is like, are the two characters doppelgangers in the movie? They're clearly flip sides, right, of
I
one
didn't know
character.
that he plays two
Yeah,
people?
yeah, he plays two characters. He plays
Because I know
plays one brother, and then he plays another brother. And
really.
they're supposed to be. It's not explained whether they're twins or not, but one is like, lets him take the business, and then the other is the preacher
Oh,
kid,
I
right?
missed that. Oh, you're talking about There Will
And
Be
There Will
Blood.
Be Blood. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Okay.
abandoned my soy.
Right. My soul. Yeah.
Yeah,
No. I thought we were talking about Prisoners. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, Paul Dano is so good. Every time he's in anything, I always am excited. I was really excited when I saw he was in
Yeah.
this.
By the way, I figured out something today, Jerry, because I went to Paul Dano's IMDb,
Mhm.
and have you seen his picture on IMDb? It's very suspicious because he looks exactly like you.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Are you Paul Dano?
Hang on. Let's check this out right now. I'm about to
Yeah,
pull up
yeah,
IMDb Paul
yeah.
Dano.
Go to IMDb and look at
Because
this. Look
I've
at this
I've
picture.
had people tell me that I look
Yeah,
like people,
yeah.
actors and stuff, and it never looks like me. So I'm gonna hold you
Well,
to this.
Well, usually when somebody says, "Hey, you know who you look like?" Don't say who, because it's usually somebody that's fat,
Right.
right, or like ugly and doesn't look like you. So I don't, it's you never ask who. But
Okay.
this one's
Hang on. I'm pulling this up on screen.
I was
We
like,
can.
is Paul Dano from Buffalo?
You know who I am related to though is Emil
Look,
Hirsch. Emil Hirsch, I'm related
look,
to.
look on the left.
No way.
Yeah,
No way.
no, yeah, he does look like you, Jared, a little bit. But that's a compliment, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Look at his face. Look at his face. That's you. That's
Oh
crazy,
man, I
man.
don't know about that.
Wow. Yeah, you've been nominated for a lot of stuff. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Y'all,
Yeah.
so we got Paul Dano on the stream tonight. So,
Yeah, so for
so
anybody who hasn't seen this movie, we should give like a general breakdown of the plot.
yeah,
And also before we get started, everybody, I'm exposing powerful lies. If you guys didn't know, go
yeah,
subscribe to my channel, and if you're new here, subscribe to the Baselit Analyzer. Smash like and send in your super chats. We gonna read them live. So
yeah, yes,
do it.
yes. So, again, yeah, we got Jerry here exposing powerful lies live streams, and please, I hope everybody's having a good December and a good holiday, Christmas season. And speaking of that, please support us, okay? Because we we need your support, and yeah. So
Look at that
please,
banner.
please, please send in your support. Please send in your coin. Because we could use it. I got to get down south, and I took my car in the other day, and it was great. And then I got up to leave for my trip, and my car wouldn't start, so it's in the shop again. I need that money.
That's
Please
right.
help me to get down there. Jerry and I both, we can really use your support. So please think about supporting
Yes.
us. The links,
If you've ever
go ahead.
seen Oliver Twist, that's
Yeah,
basically us right now in the
yeah.
poorhouse.
The links are in the video description. PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. If you send them into one of those, Jerry and I are splitting this 50-50. So please support us. We can really use your help. So, all right. So prisoners.
Yes.
So prisoners. Yeah, there's the
You
figure.
you want me
So
to? I got a point for point
yeah, go ahead.
breakdown. All right.
Let
Yeah.
me
So
let me give like a
yeah.
really quick overview.
Cool.
So prisoners is basically about two families that are friends. They have two little girls. They go out and play. They disappear. Okay,
Right.
they can't find the kids. Um, Somebody is lurking around and was seen, and he's in an RV, so he gets caught. And then we're introduced to a cop. The cop, his mission is to go and find these two kids. The guy in the van is released, and one of the dads, who's Hugh Jackman, um, is mad about this and goes and kidnaps the guy who's suspected of kidnapping the kids, and he proceeds to torture the guy. Okay. Meanwhile, the detective is out looking, and finally, spoiler, but we're doing an analysis. We find the an old
Kidnapper.
we find the kidnapper, who is an old woman, and she kidnaps Hugh Jackman, who's figured it out. And then the detective figures it out, goes to the house. He rescues the kid. One of the kids had gotten away, had escaped, and that's the daughter of Terrence Howard and his wife in the movie. And then Jake Gyllenhaal gets to the house. He rescues the girl, kills the kidnapper, and all is well, except for now Hugh Jackman himself is missing because he's been kidnapped, and we think that he's run away. And the movie ends with him with the sound of a whistle.
Right, and because he found the whistle in the thing,
Right,
yeah, the woman who is the kidnapper turns out to be Paul Dano's mom,
right.
his adopted mom. But yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get more into depth as far as all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
That's the general overview for sure. We start out and it takes place in Pennsylvania. Hugh Jackman's character's name is Keller Dover, and he's hunting with his son. And we find out from the very first like 2 minutes of the film that he's a Christian. He's out hunting. They got a deer in their scope. They shoot and kill the deer, and right before they do, he's saying the Lord's Prayer. So that tells us, okay, this guy's a Christian. Then it shows him driving, and he's got the cross hanging from his little like rear view mirror and stuff. And so it's heavily like implied that he's like a devout Christian. So they bag and tag this deer, bring it home, and then we're shown a Thanksgiving scene where he and his wife Nancy, or no, his wife's name is, let's see. Oh, I didn't save it. Grace. His wife's name is Grace Dover. And we see that him, his wife, and then his son and young daughter are going over to their friend's house basically for Thanksgiving dinner. And the friend's house is Franklin Birch and Nancy Birch. And then they have two young daughters as well. One daughter's like 5 years old, one daughter's like 16 or something like that. And so each one of these families have a young 5-year-old daughter or child, and then they have like an older teenage child. They're basically out, they're all hanging out, they're having a great day. It's a nice wholesome family holiday event. And then all the kids basically go out and go for a little walk, and while they're on the walk, the two young girls run up to this RV that's like this really sketchy RV that's parked on the side of the road. And the one girl, Anna, is trying to climb up the back of the ladder. And the two teenage kids run up, yo, what are you doing? What are you doing? Get off of there. And as they're looking like, what is this RV doing here? They start to think that somebody's inside the RV. And they're like, let's get out of here. So they all go back to the house or whatever. And they finish up their Thanksgiving dinner. And the two girls want to go outside and play again. And the two teenagers, the boy and the girl, are hanging out inside, like watching a movie or something. And then it starts to rain. And so the parents are like, hey, where's Anna and Joy? And they're like, oh, they were outside playing. No, what? They're not with you? No, they're not with you. No. So then they go out. Now it's like raining really hard and nobody knows where the kids are. Hugh Jackman thinks maybe they walked home. So he goes back to his house, check his house. They're not there. And then when he gets back, everybody realizes, okay, these kids are missing now. And it's like pouring rain out. Like, where are they? And then the teenage boy brings up the RV. He's like, oh, they were playing by that RV. Hugh Jackman's like, what RV? So he runs out and the RV's gone. And now they don't have a clue where the kids are. The RV's gone. They think they were probably kidnapped. So they call the cops. And that's when the Loki characters sort of introduced this police detective who is a total like. So you've got the Keller family on one side, which are the Christian family, and then you've got Loki, who's like the pagan perennialist. He's got a Freemasonic ring. Yeah, he's got the hand tattoos of astrology symbols and Nordic runes. Yeah. Right.
They're not real. These aren't real people. I drew them on with a pen before I started. All right, but I had to do characters.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got Nordic runes. He's got astrological symbols. He's got even like an Anunnaki 8-pointed star, tattoo on his neck. He's got a very obvious Freemason ring on that they show like in large size on the screen. And then what else? And his name's Loki, for God's sakes. I mean, come on, like they were really like slapping it on obvious. As well as Keller's name as well. Keller, as you just brought up to me before the show, Keller is German, comes from the German word for cellar or basement. And this film heavily uses maze or labyrinthian symbolism, basically, like Theseus and the Minotaur, and the idea of not just a physical underworld, but a mental underworld that the character journeys into.
Yeah, and psychic underworld, right?
Right.
Right. And that's also foreshadowing, right? His name, because of course
he gets trapped in a cellar.
That's where we're going to find him. He's trapped both in a cellar in terms of his soul and the loss of his kids. But we'll get into that.
So as it goes on, we start to learn that Keller's father committed suicide. He was a corrections officer and he worked at this jail or whatever, and he ended up committing suicide. And he left Keller. Basically the apartment building that he lived in. He owned the building and he left it to his son. And so his son mentions it in the beginning, Keller does with his son, talking about how, oh, we're going to get around to renovating it one day, but it's so dilapidated, it would cost so much money. And so in that way, he's sort of trapped in his own mental cellar because he still hasn't gotten over the death of his father. And you can tell that by the fact that he's completely unwilling to go there, fix it up, because it all reminds him of his dad that killed himself. And also more of the Christian symbolism. His wife's name is Grace and his mother's name is Mary. You know what I mean? It's like those aren't accidental names right there. Like, but yeah, so
he's a prepper.
Yeah, he's a doomsday prepper.
Yeah,
find that out.
Prepper. Yeah, and it's funny that everything he does in the movie can be seen in two ways. That everything sort of gets him in trouble. Mm-hmm. Even the comment, even when they rescue the girl, or when the girl gets away at the end, her comments.
You were there.
Yeah.
because she was drugged. She was
right,
drugged, and she was confused. So she says, "Oh, you were there,"
right,
because we find out she was drugged with LSD and ketamine,
right,
like a cocktail. So,
right,
and
and
these
it's
girls are like 5, you know.
yeah, and they're giving her bad lean, right? They're
Hmm.
giving her something, this nasty poison looking snake juice,
Yeah,
and he was there, but he wasn't there for the reasons that they think he was there, right? He
that's
was there because he went to the house to ask the woman, to he went there, right, and he apologized about her son,
right.
that he had assaulted when he got out of jail. She doesn't know that he has him in his own prison,
Right.
right? So the two stories kind of mirror each other,
Yeah.
and then also also Loki is suspicious of him because of course he's suspicious,
Hmm.
right? Because he's the parent.
Right.
So who knows? And then he goes down into the basement of the house and she says, "Oh, my husband's a prepper. He's prepping for doomsday." And he's like, "Okay,
He's
uh,
got boxes of ammunition,
right,
boxes of MREs,
right,
boxes of. He's got guns all over the walls. He's got gas masks. He's got a giant bag of lye that's half empty. And
yes."
so he sees
And
the bag of lye.
that's what clues him into it, right?
Mhm.
And then, what was the excuse that he used when he catches him?
He buried his dog
Right,
like
right,
6 months ago.
right. And it's interesting also that even the burying, there's also another sort of storyline that is kind of a red herring, but leads to it's not truly a red herring because it does lead to the resolution of the movie.
Right.
But when they catch the other guy,
The
um,
mannequins.
he's buried the mannequins, right?
Mhm.
And so this burying in the cellar, right, and the basement, kind of it all. There's a constant motifs in the movie that lead to what happens in the end.
Right.
Um,
Yo, when they so right after they start looking for this RV, they end up getting a tip that the RV's at a truck stop.
yeah,
So the cops show up and they corner the RV, and it's Paul Dano sitting in an RV looking like a major creeper,
yes,
and he looks like he's about to run away. He backs up really fast, and then he ends up ramming the RV into a
yeah.
tree, and then the cops get in the RV to search it. And I wanted to ask what you thought about this. When they tell him to come out, they say, "Come out inside." The hands that come out are a little kid's hands, and then they cut to outside of the RV. They're
Right.
arresting Paul Dano, and there's no
Yeah.
kids in the RV.
Yeah.
Now, I think what that is implying that he's still a child mentally,
Yes.
but that really messed me up in the beginning
Yeah.
because it confused me. I'm like, those were obviously like a 5-year-old's hands,
Yeah.
and like then he
Yeah.
just comes out full ass grown man. Like,
Well, think of the perspective and the point of view, and I think that's Loki. That's Loki seeing some sort of magical realism, surrealistic spiritual vision
mm,
of who this guy is. It's not supposed to be literal, right? It's
right?
also very subtle in the film. But the other thing, the thing, did you mention his character's name?
Which one?
Paul
No,
Dano.
not yet, not yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, we'll get to that. All right. So when we see him though, the first time we see Loki, it's interesting because this guy is like when I saw this movie, my thought was that right away, this is the guy. This is the guy he's gonna catch him, right?
He's the true main character in this film.
He is.
100%.
He's the Theseus character,
Right.
right? And he's all alone in this. It's rain. First of all, makes Pennsylvania look terrible.
Yeah.
Damn, every time I see Pennsylvania, okay, forgive me if you live in Pennsylvania. Okay, I'm sure it's wonderful.
It's
and beautiful.
beautiful. It's a
I'm
great.
sure it is. But every time I see Pennsylvania, I mean, it's not quite like, Milwaukee or something, which is like, oh, they caught another serial killer in Milwaukee. It's like, oh, okay, well, everybody there, every citizen is a suspect. No, it's no. In Pennsylvania, it's like the deer hunter, right? So it's always raining and misty and like,
Right.
and steel towns and all this stuff. And then you see this and it's like, oh, they got this RV and this creeper outside. But when you see Jake Gyllenhaal in the little diner, right? I think he's in a Chinese restaurant or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's reading a Zodiac, right? And he's talking to, and of course, Jake Gyllenhaal had just been in the movie Zodiac.
Yeah.
But he's talking to the waitress or whatever, and he's got a little tick. He's got a little physical tick. He does his eyes, and he's all dark. His clothes in the movie, like I gotta say, like he's a pretty cool looking guy.
Oh, he's made to be Giga Chad, dude.
I mean,
For real. He's super cop.
he's so cool. And listen, I'm gonna say something like when I saw this movie in 2013, I'm gonna admit, like I got that haircut.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, that's
and
the whole point is it's a
yeah,
Hollywood film, and so that's something I was gonna touch on a
yeah,
little bit, but I didn't wanna go too into it, but that yeah, that's sort of the Hollywood
yeah,
anti-Christian propaganda is you've got the Christian and the
yeah,
perennialist pagan dude, and of course the pagan dude is made to be the Chad alpha and who saves everybody, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's basically all I'll say about that, and that's part of it is, yeah, they definitely make this guy out to be super cop alpha boy
yeah,
throughout the whole thing. Yeah.
yeah. So this is a dark movie because, first of all, if you first watch it, and you don't know anything about it. When I saw it, I didn't know anything about it. I saw it right when it opened, and I just saw. I didn't
It
know anything
hits
about it,
it hits all the major points. It hits the
and yeah,
TORTURE and the,
yeah,
trap
and
tr
it's
street traffic, you
this
know?
is a good movie because it's an entertaining movie, but this to me is what a true horror movie is,
Right.
because it is truly horrific. I mean, it's so much more terrifying and scary than any sort of other horror movie because, first of all, it's true in
Yeah.
terms of what happens in the movie. I mean, it's not based on a true story, but what happens in the movie is true, and also because it does have a happy ending. It's a great movie because it has a happy ending. All of the terrible things happen in it, and that sucks and it's terrifying. But it's worth it because of the resolution in the movie and what happens.
Right.
And when you see Jake Gyllenhaal in that restaurant, he gets the call, or he gets a beep. He gets his beeper, and he's immediately like on scene, and it's raining, and he's in charge, right?
Right.
And he immediately, he pulls his gun and he tells the guy to get the fuck out of the van. And when he backs up, and then he rides into the woods, and I liked how his sort of Chad character doesn't he doesn't like mess around, right?
Right.
And when they go to the next scene and he talks to the family and he's talking to the wife Maria Bello,
Mhm.
there's this part that like I always remember from the film, which is where she's frantic, and she's talking about her daughter, and are you gonna find them? And he does this thing where he looks at her, and he's very like objective, he's not showing any emotion, but he says to her that he's never lost and he's found everyone.
Yeah, he's always, solved the case, every
That's right.
case he's been on.
He's always solved the case, and that is pretty cool because a lot of times in movies it reflects the reality of the fact that rarely is there a resolution to these things, but at
Right.
least we're in the hands of a story where we have some hope, that these kids are going to be found and that he's the one that's going to do it. And I just thought,
The best man is on the job.
right, yeah, and his character, his life is. You often get this in these kind of detective stories where the guy basically lives in his car, right, or he's at the office, and you never see. The cool thing is, like, you never see him go home. He doesn't have a home. He doesn't have a family, and we find
Right.
out backstory that he truly doesn't have a family.
He's an
Um,
orphan.
yeah, he's an orphan, and that this is his life. Even in the last scene where they're excavating the property of the woman's house, and the lights are all shining. They're like, "We got to go home." The grass, the ground is all frozen, and they cut off the lights and they cut off everything, and he's still there.
He's
He's
still
still
there.
still just out there in the cold, and that's when he hears the whistle.
His
So
job is his life. Yeah, his
yeah,
job is his life. Now, before they go and talk to the Dover family, as soon as they arrest the creeper, Paul Dano's character, we see Loki interrogating him inside the police station. He's got him cornered, up against a wall, basically like, I know you know where these little girls are. Tell me where the little girls are. And Paul Dano is shut down and very. He can't find words. He can't speak. I don't know. I don't know. I don't. He's talking like a child, basically.
yeah,
And we find out that his name is AJ. That's all I'm going to say. His name is literally AJ,
right,
Papa Ewok.
yes,
For all of you who don't know, Alexjones. That's Paul Dano's character's name in this, which is surprising they didn't name the prepper guy that. You'd
right,
think that they would name the prepper guy that, but it's very weird to hear them use that name all throughout the film.
yeah,
All throughout the film. But yeah, so we find out Paul Dano's guy's name is Alex J. And And so basically, he's got him cornered up against the wall, and he's interrogating him. He's going real hard, and then eventually he dials back a little bit and goes, "Hey, look, I know you're a good guy. I know you're a good guy. You don't want to do anything bad. Just tell me where these girls are." He gets nothing out of him. So then it cuts to him interviewing his mother. Basically,
Yeah.
Loki visits his mother. The Jones, Mrs. Jones, basically,
Yeah.
and she's this nice old lady. Sweater vest. Nice knitting old lady, basically, and she talks to Loki and basically says Alex is mentally stunted. He is basically a 10-year-old trapped in an adult's body, and he's never been in trouble. He would never hurt anybody, gives him the Norman Bates. He wouldn't even hurt a fly, sort of deal. And, he's never gotten in any trouble with the law or anything like that. And so at this point, Loki is about, he says he's 100% certain that Alex Jones is not the one. Sorry, I just said it, is not the one who took these girls. And so he goes back to, the police. No, he visits the Dover family, and he tells them, look, we have no proof that he's the one that took it, other than the fact that he had the RV parked on the street. And so we're investigating all possible leads, but don't worry, I've never not broken a case. I always solve my cases. So, and at this, Keller is really pissed because he's certain that Alex is the one. And so just as Loki's trying to leave, Keller runs out and goes, listen, just keep him in jail for the next 2 days. If you give me a day,
Yeah.
just give me one day. This guy knows where my daughter is. And Loki doesn't promise him, because he says, I'm not asking you to promise. I'm just asking you to try your best to keep this guy in jail. So Loki goes, he talks to the chief of police or whatever, and basically says, look, we need to keep this guy locked up for at least a day. Keller's going to hate me if we let this guy go. And the chief says, he's going to hate you if you don't find his daughter anyways. We can't hold this guy. We need to let him go. So they're out, the Keller family so the Dovers and the Birches, both families are out with the police, scouring the woods, looking for the girls. And Keller gets a phone call saying, hey, they're releasing Alex today. So Keller takes off, gets in his truck, drives to the police station to intercept Alex and his mother as they're coming out of the police station. The paparazzi's there. It's a massive crowd. And she's basically, they show Mrs. Jones and Alex at the counter at the police station signing off, and they show Alex signing his name, and he's writing it like a child. His handwriting looks like a child, and Loki's just standing there behind the desk, staring at him, trying to figure out if this is the guy or not. You can see it working in his mind. And as soon as Alex walks out the door, the paparazzi flood him, and then in comes Keller, who literally walks up and punches him in the face in front of everybody. Yeah. And
well, I thought that it's interesting because number one, Keller isn't wrong, right? He's he's sure that this guy took them, and it turns out that he is right because
he's involved.
And
and he knows more than he's letting on.
Yes, and the problem is, and one of the reasons that I like this movie is because the moral quandary that occurs, right? Because the guy, Paul Dano, the AJ character, the question is whether he has any sort of culpability with this, right? And he does, but he doesn't. And we find out that the thing that I thought was interesting is that, yeah, okay, so Tolkien says he deserved it for the that particular scene, and that is true in terms of the fact that, like, when later, and you're about to get to this, when Hugh Jackman is outside the house and he sees him walking the dog, he does something, and you immediately go, this is the guy, right?
Yeah, he chokes the dog. He lifts the leash up. It's a small little dog, and he lifts the leash up and holds it. And when he does that, he looks, and it looks like he sees Keller parked outside.
He sees him, yeah. He
does. So it's like a way of taunting him.
Yeah, he does. And that to me is so, obviously when you see this, it's awful and it's disturbing, but it makes you mad. It makes you so mad. And the trick here is that you are in favor at that point of what Hugh Jackman does, right? And
what's more, before he does that, though, in the parking lot, when he punches him and he grabs him, Alex looks at Keller and goes, "They only cried when I left them." And
Yeah.
he says that to him, and only Keller can hear this. And then
Yeah.
he starts like getting ready to just like murk this dude.
Yeah.
And then that's when the cops come and drag him off.
Yeah. Yeah. And he did say it. And so, of course, he's the only one that hears it. So Loki is suspicious of whether he heard it or not. I mean, whether he actually said it or not.
Right.
But they don't have any evidence, for this guy. And they go through the van and they do all this stuff. And they say, there's no blood, or the blood is from whatever.
Yeah.
And
So as the audience, we're questioning, up until that point, we're questioning whether or not Alex really did have anything to do with it.
right.
And then once that happens and we see him do that thing with the dog, that's when we go, okay, this guy definitely has something to do
Right.
with it. And
Right.
like you said, it sets you up to be in favor of Keller's
Yeah.
decision. Then he, right after he sees, here's the thing too. So right before the kids got kidnapped, they were both singing "Jingle Bells, Batman Smells." They were
Yeah.
singing that song.
Yeah.
So then Hugh Jackman, after he gets pulled into the police station after he punches the guy, and the chief tells him, "Look, you need to leave this dude alone." He tells the cops what he heard, and they say, "Well, maybe you're just hearing what you want to hear. This guy has the mind of a 10-year-old, and there's no proof. So just leave him alone and let us do our job."
Right.
So Keller then scopes out, his Alex's house. He's sitting out front in his truck at night, and Alex goes to walk the dog. He does that thing with the dog, and then when he drops the dog back to the ground, he goes, "Okay, let's go for a walk," Spot or whatever the dog's name is. And then right as he's walking away, he starts singing "Jingle Bells, Batman
Yeah.
Smells." And right when we see that, we're like, okay, this guy's definitely
Yeah.
done.
So if he said the thing about, they cried and he's singing the song, but he has the mind of a 10-year-old, then actually what it tells you is that he's repeating things that he's heard,
Mm.
right? He's young enough in his mind that it's where he's heard the things. And where did he hear him? I mean, come on.
Right. But it does plant that seed of doubt in your mind where you
does.
go, this guy is like a 10-year-old. Every 10-year-old knows that song.
Yeah.
It could just be a coincidence,
Right. But like when you see the van, I mean, when the kids are playing in the neighborhood and you see the van, right away, you're like, I mean, the van's all nasty looking, and it's just idling in this neighborhood. Anybody living in any neighborhood knows this, right?
Right.
And that this there's something up with this guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the problem again is like what Hugh because it's what she says at the end about, well, and I don't want to spoil it yet, but like what she says about her reason for this.
Right. We'll get in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll save that.
Okay.
Yeah. So right after we hear Jingle Bells, Hugh Jackman approaches Alex with a gun and says, "Hey, turn around."
Yeah.
Alex turns around and we see that Hugh Jackman's got the revolver pointed at his face.
Yeah, and he means business too. This is not a guy to fuck around with.
Oh, he's not messing around. He knows that he's not going to get help from the
Yeah.
cops, or at least he believes that the cops are letting the guy go.
Yeah.
And so it cuts away from that point, and we don't see exactly what he's doing with him yet. Let's see here. Let me check my notes just because I want to keep this in order.
He reminds me of, everybody I'm sure has seen the video of the guy that did this. The dad that took care of business. Remember the guy was convicted and they were transporting him, and then he was in the airport. I forget the guy's name. But he turned around and he did the thing to the guy, which I can't say. But that's who he reminded me of in this.
Yeah.
He means business. He's not. That's what I like about the movie is that like the characters aren't. You believe that they're going to do the things that they say they're going to do. There's also no stupid trope of like the chief of police sees Loki and is like, you got to rein yourself in.
You're a loose cannon, Loki.
You're a loose cannon. You're playing against the rules. Instead, they do an interesting thing where they're like, he is a loose cannon, but he's not really loose because he's with a direction. Right. So they know that however far he has to take the limits, they sort of allow him to do that.
Right.
But they can't go against the legal system of not letting the guy go. And there's nothing they can do about that.
So after Alex basically has this confrontation with Keller, we get a scene where Loki is talking with the police chief, and we find out that in a 10-mile radius of the Keller's house, there's nine level 3 sex offenders living in the area. So there's 9 people who could possibly have something to do with this within 10 miles of where they live. So Loki then goes to visit one of these guys who turns out to be a priest. and
Right.
the priest is drunk and asleep. And basically, Loki goes around his house, looking through his house, and he finds the basement is set up where there's no stairs. So it's like a cellar with no stairs. So it's like a trap room, you know.
Yeah.
Loki sees this and then he jumps in, to which I'm like, what? Like, he's by himself, you know, and there's this drunk, you know, priest upstairs or whatever. And Loki jumps into the cellar. He's looking around the cellar and he finds the body. He finds a body duct taped to a chair that's been there for a long time. It's
Yeah.
very, very badly decomposed. And on this body, he sees a necklace with a maze emblem. It's like a little pendant with this picture that looks like a mandala, but it's a maze or a labyrinth. Now, it doesn't really focus heavily on that. It just shows it for a brief second.
Yeah.
You're like, huh, that's interesting. Maybe that'll come into play later. Then we cut to Loki back up the top. He's already at the top, right? So right
Yeah.
when it cuts, I go, okay, he's not going to get trapped down here. He's got the priest face first over the opening, and he's basically like, you know, you want to explain this to me, Father? He goes, listen, I spent 6 years in Huntington Boys Home. It would hurting a prick like you would be a real treat for me. And
Right.
so that's when we find out, okay, this guy was Loki was an orphan. He spent 6 years in an orphanage that was a Catholic boys' home, and he probably was sexually abused as a child because of just
For
that
sure.
statement. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. For sure. So did he know the priest?
Yeah, that's the part I wanted to ask you, because in my notes, I think I wrote this after I'd watched the scene, and I was like, is this priest a sex offender, or does he know this priest? Because he's in
Yeah.
the guy's house, so I'm
Yeah.
not 100% certain the
Yeah.
relationship.
He had to have known him because
He's in his house.
yeah, he's in his house. When he gets there, he sort of knows his way around and he knows where to go.
Mhm.
Um, but again, it's interesting because we find out that the priest, the guy the guy
The
had
dead
come,
guy.
the dead guy had come to the priest to confess, he says. And there's a whole thing with that. But
Confessed the murder of 16 little ones.
right. 16.
16.
So we find out that the priest's reaction is this, tied him to this chair and left him. Right.
Because he
Now
said, I won't stop. I'll do it again. If I
right.
leave, I will do it again.
Right. So that's interesting because the priest is trying to say through his actions here that he's not going to actively kill the guy in his mind, I guess, but he's going to leave him tied up in the darkness, right, in the cellar.
Mm.
So again, we have this image of the cellar, and we also have
The monster in the lab. Yeah, the monster.
We do. We have the Minotaur, and this is supposed to be the literal the Minotaur, right? This is the guy. This is the guy we're going to find out that did this thing. He's wearing the emblem of his method of killing.
But the body's so decomposed, it can't be him.
It can't be him because he's been down there for a long time. So the question is, who is it that did it, right?
Right.
And we also have like the interesting imagery and the symbolism of, I know it's kind of like we're talking about we're going to decode the symbolism here, right? But he's in the light, right, talking to the priest, and then he jumps into the darkness, right, which is sort of where Loki lurks anyway. So he's
Right.
the whole thing with the tattoos and the esoteric, symbolism and the paganism is like, I guess that this guy lives in the darkness, right? He's like one of them, but he's supposed to be different. And this is what you were talking about with me with like the perennialism in the movie, right? And that he jumps back into the light and sort of holds the priest's face into the darkness to look at like what he's done, but he still hasn't found any resolution. So he's going to have to keep going on whatever path he can to discover the truth.
Right. And now we're tipped off to the fact that, like, how many child abductors are in this town? Like, the fact that there's, nine sex offenders just in a 10-mile radius, and these guys have gotten their daughters kidnapped, and there's this child murderer that's literally been down there for a while, that is probably connected in some way, but we don't know. The only connection we have at that point is the fact that this guy likes kids, and there's 2 kids missing. And then that little pendant he has kind of foreshadows or sort of makes us think maybe there's like a cult aspect to this. Maybe there's a group, a trafficking ring or something going on. Then we cut back to the Keller's home, and the mom is completely distraught. She's like the mom in Hereditary, you know, she's like so distraught. She's almost comatose with her grief, and she's crying. And it shows the teenage son is sitting there just like blank stare on his face, like, oh my goodness, like now his sister's gone and his mom is just completely distraught. And she's crying, her son is with her, and Keller then hands the son the mom's sleeping pills and basically says, I need you to be a grown up. I need you to watch your mother. So he gives him sleeping pills, and then we wonder, okay, sleeping pills, that's sometimes that's a trope in films for,
Right.
you know, unaliving yourself. So it's like, okay. But he gives the son the mom's sleeping pills and says, I need you to be a man. I know you're scared, but I need you to basically watch the house, and I'll be back. And so then Keller leaves. He gets out into his truck, and then when he turns the truck on, we hear like a Billy Graham evangelist on the
Right.
radio,
Yeah.
which again re-signifies the fact that he is a very religious person. And the evangelist says, we should be very penitent when we are afflicted. Trouble and affliction we have all reason to expect in this world. Man is brought into trouble, not as man, but as sinful man, who was in transgression. Man born into sin, and therefore born into trouble. So that's what the evangelist says on the radio. And so we
Right.
get this idea that our troubles are caused by our own sin. And that basically all the grief that we experience in life is as a result or as punishment basically for our sins.
That
So
that that scene reminded me of there's a movie. Well, probably nobody else has seen this movie, but there's a movie called 21 Grams. I think it was by
Benicio del Toro's in there, right?
Yeah, and Benicio del Toro's in it. And the same thing kind of, have you seen that movie? The same thing kind of happens in that movie. It's Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, and
Hmm.
he in that movie he is, committed a murder. And there's a scene where, he's trying to change his life or whatever, and he gets into the truck, and he's become a kind of a Pentecostal, and he's listening to the Billy Graham,
Yeah.
come on down to the altar. We got a pizza here,
Yep.
and sort of the same motif. Anyway,
Right.
keep going.
So let's see. So after that, we see Keller drive to Franklin's house, who is the father of the other missing girl. So Franklin Birch. Keller and Birch then drive to his father's abandoned building,
Yeah,
and basically he tells Franklin, he goes, grab an extra pair of clothes, come with me. And Franklin's like, where are we going, dude? He's like, it'd be better if I just show you. Like, I'll just show you. So
yeah.
at this point, we still, as the audience, have no idea what's going on. All
Wait,
we saw
what?
was
Hold on. What's Terrence Howard's name in the movie?
Franklin Birch.
Oh my god! I thought you said Franklin Graham for a second.
Which
Yeah,
also Birch ties in with the tree symbolism,
yeah.
because all throughout this film we get real like long shots of trees and sort of there's heavy symbolism. And so obviously, yeah, Birch is a tree and then Keller is cellar. So there's definite like the symbolism is very heavy handed in this.
Yeah.
It's laid on very thick to where there's no question.
It's also light and dark. I mean, they have the we have the lightness, the darkness. We've got the Masonic ring, and then we've got the two best friends, the two best friend families. One's Hugh Jackman and
One's
Maria
white, one
Bamford.
family's white, one family's black.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the other character is Terrence Howard and Viola Davis, which is Viola Davis is the one who, if you're going to get a woman to play the CIA director in a movie, get Viola Davis, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Terrence Howard, I've always loved Terrence Howard. I think he's an awesome actor, and people say he made the mistake of asking for too much money in Iron Man. Remember, he was an Iron Man. He was in the
Mhm.
first one. He was replaced by what's his face, and it was because he was like, "No, I'm a big star, just like Robert Downey Jr." But maybe that was a play for him to get the paycheck from the first one. And then I don't have to be in the other movies, these
Yeah.
terrible, these whatever movies. Anyway, I like
So
that.
so they get to the building and Franklin asks him, "Hey, didn't you used to live here?" And that's when we get the first shot of the building. They walk
Yeah,
inside. The walls are torn down. It is completely dilapidated. There's plywood paneling covering all the windows.
Yes.
It's an abandoned building.
Yeah, it
basically.
looks like a CIA black site, like in the middle of Pennsylvania. It looks
Right.
very, very dark.
Right. Oh, and
Yeah.
actually, just to comment when you were talking about Pennsylvania, you know, George Romero, he made all his films in Pennsylvania. He never
Oh,
left
great.
Philadelphia. So
Oh, there's another good thing. All right.
yeah, all the zombies come from
Yeah.
Pennsylvania as well. So they get into the apartment complex. Basically, it basically looks like an apartment complex. Like there's probably 10 different units in this building.
Yeah.
Like that's how it looks from the outside. It's huge. And they walk through, and the place is in total shambles. It's totally destroyed. And as they're getting through this labyrinth, basically in this complex, they get into this room that's like deep in there, and you see Alex J is duct taped to the radiator. And he's just like duct tape over his mouth, his hands to the radiator. And Franklin sees this and is just like, "What are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
We need to go to the cops now. Like this is really bad." He says, "What if you're wrong? What if you're just hearing what you want to hear? We should take him to the police."
Yeah.
Because Keller's telling him, "No, he told me they cried when I left them. He said that to me. Like I know it's this guy. Like you might not be certain, but I am certain. Like this
Yeah.
is the guy, and our kids might be dead already. And if they're not, they might be dead in an hour from now. Like this guy knows where they are, and we
Yeah.
need to get it out of him because the cops don't think it's him. And by the time the cops figure this out, these kids they might be gone." And
Yeah.
so
So this is the moral crux of the movie, right?
Right.
Because Terrence Howard should listen to his buddy. He's his best friend. He should listen to him. But the thing that he says about what if you're wrong is not simple, because it's not just if you're wrong in terms of what if you got the wrong guy or what if you didn't hear this. It's actually what if you're right.
Right.
But what if you're right in a way that this guy is going to be unable to tell you, which is what happens.
Or what if you're right and we're going about this the wrong way? It
Right.
becomes very difficult morally, because on one hand we all know that, like, yeah, obviously, like, tying somebody up and like
Yeah.
doing whatever to them is really like it's very rarely ever going to be morally right to do.
Yes.
But the fact that the kids' lives are on the line and that they may actually die
Yeah.
tonight, that complicates it, because then
Yeah.
it's like, what are
Yeah.
you gonna be willing to do to save them?
Right. So you really feel for Hugh Jackman because
Mhm.
if you were, and neither of us are parents, but it's like if you're a parent and this is happening to you, you want to say you would do this, right?
Every parent would say,
You're
I'll
going to do everything possible. And what I liked about the movie is that Hugh Jackman never for 1 second is he calm. He's frantic the entire movie, and I love that because oftentimes when you see this kind of thing happen in the news or whatever, and you have the parents, and they're like, "Oh, I forgive the guy," right? Or, "No, we're looking for him," and it's like, "No, man, this guy, even when he goes in Loki's car, and he's like, why were you walking around?" And Hugh Jackman's like, "I went out to go get a drink because I can't stay at home. Forgive me if I can't stay at home. Why are you talking to me?" Everything he says to him is, "Why don't you find my daughter? You're wasting
Right.
time with me when you could be out there." And
And
then
throughout the whole movie, he is. It
is.
seems like we never see him really doing any real detective work looking for the kid. 90% of the detective work we see Loki do is following Keller and
Yeah.
trying to figure out what Keller's going on with him and what his parents are doing. And
Yes, but he's right to do that because those things, when he follows him, do lead him to where he
Right.
goes unintentionally. And also, this is great because it does have the thing about the detective movie where everything that he sees ends up playing a role. He remembers the things that he said, the little clues, right? Like you said with the necklace, or when he has the little car, the little toy RV, and then he knocks it off the table.
Oh, I didn't even mention that. Yeah, when he's searching
Yeah.
Alex's house in the beginning, right after they arrest him,
Yeah.
they find a miniature RV that looks just like the RV that Alex was driving.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, we get it. He has a toy and it's an RV and he was driving an RV.
Right.
Okay.
And it also kind of rings back to the fact that he's a child mentally, that he's got
Right.
these little Hot Wheels,
Right. But later when he smashes his desk up, and he has the RV on that little toy and he knocks it off, it makes him look down at the pictures that he spilled, and then he sees what he sees.
That's true.
But with Hugh Jackman and the black site, The other thing that happens is that weirdly, his life has taken on the role of what the culprit's life has done.
Right. He's got
doing,
somebody kidnapped.
he's
Yeah.
doing the exact same thing. And the mirror is, though, that those are kids and this is mentally a kid. But the worst thing is that we know that this has happened to him before, and this is why he's like this.
Well, we don't know that yet, actually. We don't.
We don't, but do we?
But yes,
do we not know
no,
that yet?
we don't find that out until towards the end that actually I mean, you could assume, like,
Yeah.
if he's hurting kids, that you could assume it's a cycle of
Right.
abuse,
Right.
but it's never stated until, and that's sort of like something that's revealed as like a big part of the plot is like, oh, this, they're using childhood trauma, people
Yeah.
with childhood trauma to do this.
Right.
This circle, this trafficking circle is using their abused kids. Most of the kids and they save like one or two of them to basically be the fall guys later.
Right. The circle also just like the medallion is in a circle. All the labyrinths are in a circle.
Right. So yeah. So as Franklin is shown Alex tied up to the radiator, and Franklin says, "What if you're wrong?" Keller says, "Franklin, we hurt him till he talks, or they are going to die. That's the choice.
Yeah.
I've made my choice. He's not a person anymore. He stopped being a person when he took our daughters. I need your help." And so then Franklin's like, oh man, like what? Yeah, what if you're wrong? Or like you said, what if you're right? And these kids really. So then basically, Keller walks into the bathroom, and the camera stays on Franklin outside as we see Keller walk into the bathroom where Alex is, and then you see Keller yell out, Franklin, I need your help. And then Franklin walks into the bathroom and closes the door. And so then he makes the choice that he's gonna help him. Then
he said his name too. I say his name. I mean, don't dox your friend when you're in there doing that.
Right? Yeah, Franklin, come in here. Hey, Franklin Birch, come in here.
Right.
Yeah. Franklin Birch at 321 Maple Street.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, ironically though, the kid doesn't know where he lives though. I mean, not the kid. He's Paul Dano, but the guy knows where he lives already because he was there. We know that for sure. He was there, and then he builds a waterboarding closet. Right. Puts him in it.
Right.
Yeah.
But so after Franklin goes into the bathroom, we cut to Loki outside of the house that the RV was parked in front of, and we find out this house has been empty for months. It's been on the market, and so then it cuts to Loki inside the police station, and he's looking up cases of similar disappearances. And he finds one article that says the Conyers boy disappears. 7-year-old boy went missing while playing in front yard of parents' home. Police warning there may be a predator on the loose in the community. And that's when we see the Masonic ring on Loki's hand. Loki then goes to interview the Conyers boy mother, and she ends up saying to him, no one took them. Nothing happened. They're just gone. So the mother is in a state of despair where she's given up hope of ever finding her son. And she literally says to him, no one took them. Nothing happened. They're just gone. Like that's her way of coping with this. Is that I'm never going to find closure. I'm never going to find the guy who did this. So they're just gone. And that's how she has to go on. And so basically that's when they end up. So Franklin and Keller continue to interrogate this guy, and you see that it's not really going anywhere. You see Keller beating this dude up, and Alex isn't spilling anything. He's just crying, and and you see this rift start to happen between Franklin and Keller, where Franklin is not really wanting to do this, and now a couple of days have gone on, and it's not the not the best situation, right? And so
in terms of him not being able to reveal anything, this is also one of the MOs of it's not dissociation in this, right? I mean, he is himself, but they did this to him, right? I mean, he's like this for a reason that the lady has kept. Well, we're gonna find out that he is like this purposefully because no matter what he has gone through, he can't reveal it because he's unable to reveal it. He only reveals little bits that he can imitate.
Right.
And in fact, the whole thing is meant to engender this sense of accusation, right? J'accuse, because Hugh Jackman is put into this corner where he is making accusations that he can't, and no one believes him, and that's part of the purpose of what we're going to find out.
Right, and he can't prove it either. So the detective goes with Loki, and they go to interview the priest again. And the priest says he was waging a war against God, talking about the dead guy in the cellar. Um, and then the detective says, "Tell him how he took the kids." And he says sometimes he took them in daylight. Sometimes he would take more than one at a time. And he said he had a family. So then we cut to Keller and Franklin beating up Alex, and Keller's like, "You said they cried when you left them." He says, "I can see it in his eyes. He knows." And he takes out a hammer, and he and he puts
Yeah.
Alex's hand on the sink, and he's
Yeah.
basically threatening to smash Alex's fingers. And
Yeah.
at this point, this is where that stuff has gotten to the highest point. It's
Yeah.
not just punching in the face anymore. And so as the audience, we're assuming, okay, this is if he knows something, this is where he's gonna spill it
Yeah.
because this is like real bad. He's got
Yeah.
the back of the hammer and he's about to take off his finger. And he's saying, you need to tell me what you know. And at this point, Franklin looks just as scared as Alex in
Yeah.
this. I don't know if you noticed that, but
Yeah.
Franklin's like, are we really doing this right
Yeah.
now? And he doesn't say anything, and Keller brings the hammer down and ends up smashing the sink because he can't even bring himself to do it. He
Yeah.
brings it all the way down, and still Alex has said nothing.
Yeah.
And so he starts to kind of get a little bit hopeless in that sense, where it's like, okay, this guy isn't saying anything, and uh, you know, um, so then we cut to a candlelight vigil being held. Franklin is there, and the whole families are there. Franklin actually collapses. He looks like he's going to throw up. He's clearly mentally distraught by the situation that they're in. Not only is his daughter's missing, but now he's a kidnapper, and now he's literally interrogating somebody, in a completely illegal way.
Yeah.
And Loki is also there. So Loki's in the crowd, and he spots some sketchy dude in the crowd. And like we were talking on the phone, what you said about the vigil.
Yes. Yeah. So like, look, man, if this happens and there's a vigil, the dude's gonna be there.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's not technically true in this,
Yeah.
but look around at the face because they always say this.
Right.
Right. They whenever they catch somebody, like they always say, "Oh yeah," and it turns out he was at the vigil. In fact, he was one of the main guys leading the search party. Right.
Right. Or they return to the scene of the crime too. That's a
Yeah,
common thing.
they always do. Right. So of course they're panning over the crowd and they see the face of what's that actor's name? David. I want to say Basmajian because I knew this
Yeah.
guy named
He's a
Basmajian.
perfect dude for a
Yeah.
creep. He's got
Yeah.
that creepy face. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. One of my friends is a screenwriter in LA, knows that dude. He wrote a script. He was in he's a great writer. He was in he had a small part in the Dark Knight Rises. Remember, he was one of the like fake flag cops. But yeah, you see this guy and he's standing there in a hoodie, and you're like, okay, this guy has a Satan face.
Yeah. He's got his little Unabomber hoodie up.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, so Jake Gyllenhaal, who by the way would recognize these people, right? Because when this happens, it seems like you either go one of two ways, right? You either go the route that Jake Gyllenhaal went, or you go the route that this guy goes. So it's like they know each other in terms of their experience, and he immediately goes after the guy, right? And he loses him. He can't find him.
Yeah, as soon as the guy makes Loki, as soon as he realizes that's the cop, like you said, they both kind of recognize each other, not because they know each other, but because they recognize each other's character.
Yes.
The sketchy dude can recognize that that's a cop without him having to get confirmation, and Loki can recognize that this dude's a creep without getting confirmation. The creep starts to run, and then Loki just books it, and it doesn't seem like anybody else really notices this going down. But Loki ends up chasing him through people's backyards, and he ends up losing him. Actually, the guy jumps on top of him for a second.
Yeah. If you were at the vigil, wouldn't you be looking around?
Right.
Like, oh, this guy looks creepy. But of course, if you were at the vigil also, you'd be like, I better not look around too much because,
Yeah. The creep ends up getting, he's quite a ways away, and he hops over a few fences. And then when Loki gets into this backyard, it turns out that the creep's up in a treehouse.
Yeah.
As Loki gets in front of the treehouse, creep jumps out on top of him and then takes off running. And then they basically he chases him to the highway, and then when Loki gets to the highway, he has no idea where the guy went, and he loses it there.
The houses are interesting in this because when we're talking about the labyrinth, it's the psychic, like the mind of the psyche, right? And where you've been driven. It gets where the person has been driven down into and sort of lost their identity and lost themselves. And then the houses are supposed to often function in literature as a kind of like an outward symbol of the interstate. And it's interesting that we have these two houses in the beginning where the two neighbors live, and it's in this nice neighborhood. Everything's hunky dory or whatever. And then when we find out that, like you were talking about, Hugh Jackman has this other house. The other house is completely different, and like you said, the house is boarded up and locked up because it's where we find out that his dad had committed suicide. So of course that's going to be the interstate of where Hugh Jackman's character has been locked up, right? And then within the house there is a cell where the guy is locked up.
Right.
And we also see that there's
where a traumatized child is locked up.
Yes. Yeah, that's also in the end. And then we also see that even the prepper basement sort of functions as that. So it's like Hugh Jackman has these compartmentalized houses within himself that function as like different parts of his personality. Whereas Loki lives completely on the outside. Right. He goes inside the houses, but he's always on the outside.
Yeah, and in this way, that Theseus character, there's actually like multiple Theseuses in this. You've got Keller, you've got Loki, you've got Alex. All of these people are Theseus in their own underworld journey. And they each have their own monster. Basically, Keller's got his dad, Loki's got the kidnapper, and Alex has the ring, the trafficking ring.
Well, I think that as far as I was reading Edith Hamilton's Mythology, which has the story of Theseus in it. And I think that Loki is the true Theseus character in this because he solved the labyrinth. I think that Alex and the kids are supposed to be the sacrificial victims of the Minotaur. The guy that we find out is dead is kind of a Daedalus who built the labyrinth in the first place. Even though Daedalus escapes the labyrinth, he builds it and then flies away.
You know what I just realized, dude? I just realized from you saying that guy in the basement, that's Mrs. Jones' husband.
Yeah,
guaranteed. That's the thing, because you said he's the Daedalus that built the labyrinth. That's who he is. I didn't even realize that until just now.
Yeah,
because the picture at the end, he's wearing the necklace.
That's right. She says that he went off 16 years ago and then he disappeared and he never came home.
Right.
And she says she slowed down a little bit since then. But we're going to get to the big reveal.
Yes. I'm sorry, that just hit me right now.
The big reveal is not the fact that she's the one that did it.
Right.
The big reveal is the reason for her doing it.
And the fact that Alex is also,
and that he's tied into it. So we will save that for the end because that is a big reveal.
Right. But yeah. So I think you're spot on with that for sure. All I meant by saying there's multiple Theseus is that each one of them has their own labyrinth, sort of in their own life, but they are all connected in this greater sort of labyrinth of these kids.
So when Loki does get to when he finds out, because what happens is he asks the girl at the store, the kid. There's a store that sells clothes,
right?
And he says, if anybody comes in here, that doesn't.
No. The girl calls the cops and basically says there's a sketchy dude that's been in here a bunch who's been buying children's clothes, and every day he buys them in different sizes, and that's why she calls the cops. And then he goes
she knows him though somehow. So I mean, he's the guy on the case. He's the guy.
He shows up. Yeah.
Right. So if you're gonna call someone, don't call the system. Just call him directly, and he'll be there in 2 seconds.
Right.
So he said, she tells him that, and he's like, that's it, right? I mean, it's got to be it.
It's got to be the guy. Yeah.
He says, you get a plate number, and he thinks she's got the plate number.
Okay. There were two separate calls. There was the first call where she calls the police, and the police chief tells him, "Yo, go to the Value Mall and interview this girl." He interviews the girl. She tells him about the sketchy dude, and they leave it at that. And he basically says, "Call me if he comes back."
Yeah.
That's when she calls him on the personal phone number and says, he just left. He noticed I was watching him. He peeled off. He says, "Did you get the plate numbers?" And she goes outside and she sees him driving away. And
what's great about that is that we're not told. She doesn't have to say, "Yes, I got the plate numbers," or read the plate numbers. It's just a shot of her looking, and we see the car in the background. And then the next scene is he's at the house, right?
But that's jumping ahead a little bit. Yeah. So after Loki's chasing the guy, and actually before we go on, I see we have 35 people here. Y'all smash that like. maybe get that banner scrolling on the bottom. Everybody, if you want to super chat, use the links in the description and in the live chat, and we will read
Yes.
your questions and answers and all that stuff. And yeah, shout out to everybody that's here. Thank you so much. 33 viewers. That is awesome. Really appreciate all you guys here. So anyway, so after Loki loses this guy at the sketchy dude at the highway, we cut to Franklin sitting at home watching the news. He sees a police sketch of the sketchy dude that Loki was chasing, and basically says police are looking for this guy. So now Franklin realizes there's the police are looking for somebody else, and we got this dude tied up. Maybe he's not the dude. And so he goes back to Keller and basically says, why would the police be looking for this guy if they don't think that he did it? Like, they're looking for another dude. They got this sketch, this police cartoon sketch of this guy. Like, maybe Alex isn't our guy. Maybe we're wrong again. And then at this, Keller basically says, no, he goes, they did it together. He says they know each other. I effing told you. He looked me in the eye and he said they only cried when I left them. He left them with someone and he knows where the guy is.
Yeah.
So Keller won't hear any of it. Keller's certain that Alex has something, to do with these children's kidnapping, and obviously for the reasons we've already stated, the Batman Jingle Bells song and the dog and the thing he said in the parking lot. So that, is again Franklin trying to weasel out of the situation. He's trying to say, look, maybe we're wrong, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. So then after they have this little encounter, we cut to Loki at the station holding the dog collar. He tells the chief, Holly Jones's dog got hit on Southward Street. Alex took the dog for a walk the night before last, and he never came home. And his aunt didn't want to tell us about it when we called her. She said that she was worried it would get him in trouble or some shit. I thought you said you'd keep the guy under surveillance. So now we find out that the chief of police wasn't even keeping Alex under surveillance, and Loki just found out that Alex has been missing for 2 days. And he's like, the dog got hit and Alex disappeared and his aunt didn't want to tell us and you didn't keep the guy under surveillance.
Yeah.
I need to know this shit. He basically tells, I need to know what's going on. He goes, if you're not going to keep the guy under surveillance, you should at least tell me that. I would have been parked outside his house every night.
Yeah. Tell us that.
This is the main person of interest, and the chief basically tells him, we don't have money to surveil innocent people, and you told me that you said you were 100% sure Alex was innocent. We don't have money to
don't have the money. He just, I mean, when he says I'm going to be outside his house surveilling every night, like he will be
on off the clock, he'll be doing that off the clock.
That's all this guy's going to do, right?
That's his life. Yeah, it's his whole life. So Loki then tells him he needs to know where everybody is, and he's pissed. So then he goes back into their little surveillance room at the police station, and he starts watching the interrogation footage of him and Alex together. And he's sort of fast forwarding and rewinding. He's watching Alex's face because now Alex is missing, and he's like, okay, there's something more to this with Alex, and you can see him really focusing on Alex's face to try to see if he breaks character at all, to see if maybe he's just pretending. Because again, as the audience, you're wondering, is Alex pretending to be this like meek little person? Because when he does say to Keller, they cried when I left them, it seems like he breaks character almost for a minute. And it seems like maybe he's not retarded. Maybe he is an adult just playing retarded,
right.
What I mean? So he's watching him on the surveillance tapes. And Alex says, it's where I go to be alone, referring to the truck stop that he was at, that he was caught.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And so Loki asks him, what kind of music do you listen to when you're alone? And he says, radio, tape. The RV was parked over on Fairmont Circle. And he says, no, is my aunt coming? So these are sort of, he has these backwards and forwarding. These are the lines that he's, when he clicks play, is coming out. So Loki is watching the tapes and thinking. Then somebody comes up and says, Loki, you got a call. And then we cut to Loki at Value Mall talking to the checkout girl. So we already covered all that stuff, but she does mention one thing that we didn't talk about the creep that buys children's clothing, is that one time she caught him messing around with the mannequins, she says. And so this is another reason why she thinks that the dude buying children's clothes is sketchy, because not only does he show up and he's this weird looking dude and he keeps buying children's clothing in all different sizes, but they found him fondling the mannequins basically, or trying to steal the mannequins.
Yeah.
And so he says, what did he pay with? And she says, cash. So now we know, okay, this guy's probably a professional. He's not paying with cards. Loki's not going to get an easy catch on this guy. Give me a call if you hear anything. Then we cut back to Franklin and Keller in the abandoned apartments. And Keller says, it's been 5 days, maybe 5 days since they've had a drink of water. This could be the last night that matters. So he's telling Franklin, we really need to do something. Like, we need to find out now. It's been 5 days. I mean, honestly, after 5 days, like, your chances of finding these kids alive are real.
After one day.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's been 5 days, but at least we have Loki, consistent in the fact that, he's going to find them.
Yeah,
so we have some hope.
Right.
I suppose.
Yeah, Loki's hot on the case. He
Yeah.
is following up his leads. And so we're getting that sort of comparison between what Keller and Franklin are doing to find the kids and what Loki's doing to find the
The
kids.
mannequins are not good, though.
The mannequin, that's not
not
a good
good.
sign.
I mean, anybody who's seen Dahmer, right? Or knows about Dahmer. Y'all seen Dahmer in the new? Have you seen the new Dahmer?
That's what I thought of as soon
You've
as
seen
I
that
watched
creepy
this.
new Dahmer.
Yeah.
Remember the scene in Dahmer where they this was one of the good things about that show. I mean, good. I mean,
Right.
Revelatory things about the show was that the scene where the grandmother walks in to clean his room and turns down the sheets, and he has this damn silver mannequin like in his bed.
Right.
It's
Grandma, don't go in my room.
right. And then he freaks out Dahmer style or whatever. But this often plays a role in some of the real stories of
showing that. Yeah, it was a nice way to show that this dude's a psycho.
Yeah.
This dude's psychotic. But yeah, so basically when Keller tells Franklin, this might be the last night that matters, it's late at night. You can tell that they've been interrogating Alex for a long time already that day. And Franklin's getting ready to go home. And he's like, dude, this is the last night that matters. Like, we need to push harder. And Franklin says, look, I'll call you after Nancy goes to sleep. All right. I promise. So Keller walks back into the room with Alex and shuts the door. And we hear Alex whimpering through the door. And Franklin looks distraught. So Franklin has been going along with Keller, but he's really tired. And when he said, I'll call you when Nancy goes to sleep, he's been away from home all day, and his wife is at home, who has no idea what's going on. So their kids are missing. Not only is Keller's wife at home, but also Franklin's wife is at home. They have no idea what they're doing. So the husbands are just gone, and so it's like he's basically saying, I need to go home and talk to my wife because she has no idea about any of this. So he goes home and he tries to play it off, but she sees right through him. She sees something's going on. And basically we see Franklin sit on the stairs and Nancy just look at him. And then from there we cut to
this is that strong wife.
Strong, independent black woman who don't need no man.
Yeah, because she's like, you need to tell my ass what's been going on, right? Whereas Maria Bello's been at home. And look, you can't blame her. She's been at home all Xanaxed out.
Right.
But the problem is that there's no communication and they're not talking to each other. And then that plays into how the psychology of this, but what it does to their psyche, because it makes them start to think, it makes her start to think, listen, my husband's been gone all this time. He's usually never gone, right? And now's the time when he chooses to be gone. He tells me that he's out looking for him, but what if he's the guy? What if he did it?
What if he did it? Or
it starts to tear them apart, even in terms of their family. And then it does the same with the son, which you're going to get to in a second. What happens?
Yeah.
With the son.
Also, so it plants the seed of doubt of what if Keller kidnapped both of their kids. Also, we find out that Keller had a drinking problem.
Yes.
And he's been sober for 9 years.
Yeah.
So what if he's out drinking again, or stuff like that. So we cut after we see Nancy basically giving the death stare to Franklin. We cut to Keller, who's back at home sitting and watching the TV, and we hear a knock on the door. He goes to the door, and it's Franklin and Nancy. And as soon as we see Nancy, we realize, okay, Franklin spilled the beans.
Yeah.
So Nancy then basically, confronts Keller, and she says, "What the hell were you thinking?" And Keller looks at Franklin, and Franklin sort of got that cuck look on his face where he's embarrassed and defeated, like, okay, yeah, I told her. And she goes, "What the hell were you thinking? Did you?" And then he closes the door so his wife and kid doesn't hear, and he says, "Did you tell anyone?" And right there you see Nancy's tough girl demeanor drop, and you realize she wants to see the guy. She goes, when he says, "Did you tell anyone?" She says, "I want to see him."
Yeah.
So then
she no snitch.
Yeah.
She's not going to call the damn cops, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you think she's there to basically tell him bad boy, but she's actually there because she wants to try to talk to get the Alex to spill the beans.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he takes Franklin and Nancy back to the abandoned apartments. And when she gets there, she sees a man duct taped to the sink with
Yeah.
a bloody bag over his head. It's just
Yeah.
a burlap sack with a big blood stain on the front of it. And they have this horrible reveal where they take the bag off his head and his face just looks like a marshmallow. I
Yeah.
mean, it's bad. The
Yeah.
dude looks bad. And you can see they've been working him for 5 days already, and
Mhm.
he had his one eye can barely open, and she sits in front of Alex and she sees him in this state. She actually reaches out her hand and puts her hand on his lap and is like, "I know you're gonna help me find my girls." And she's trying to sympathize with him. She's
Yeah.
trying to connect with him and say, like, okay, they've tried beating him up and it didn't work. Let me try appealing to his better side, or let me try appealing to his emotional side. So she says, "I know you're going to help me find my little girl." And then she pulls out a picture of her daughter, Joy. She says, "I know you're going to tell me. I know you're going to tell me." And so then she unties his hands from the sink because she's certain he's going to tell her if she just shows him a little sympathy.
Yeah.
She showed him the picture. So she unties his hands from the sink and he looks at her and says, "Help me, help me." And so he's basically trying to plant the seed of doubt in her mind, or I don't know if he's really conscious of that, but like that as the audience, when we hear him say that, like he says it like
Yeah.
he's like a kidnapped child.
Yeah.
Help me. I don't have the information for you.
Yeah.
But then immediately as he says that, he gets up and smashes the window and tries to crawl out.
Yeah.
And then he grabs one of the pieces of broken glass. And as Keller and Franklin run in to try to stop him, he turns around and cuts Keller's
Yeah.
hand, or I think he cuts his hand. Cuts him with the glass, and Franklin and Keller overpower him and basically
Yeah.
bring him back to the
Yeah.
ground. And they're like, "What are you thinking? Why would you untie him?" Like,
Yeah. Again, the broken glass, right? The broken glass from the mirror. So the smashing the mirror, which is again another motif we get with the labyrinthine imagery and the broken psyche.
yeah,
Right. And what we find out, of course, is that and the smashed glass is that, again, the glass functions as like he sees himself, but he sees beyond, and then he smashes it. He's
right,
trying to make his way out of this house, out of his inside, but he can't. And he can't make his way out of his own psyche, because that's the reason they can't get anything out of him when they're doing this to him,
right,
because we're going to find out he's already resistant to this. This is why he regressed. This is
right.
why he goes into infantile behavior, because he's already regressed. He's already had this in almost his entire life.
And the people that kidnapped him are the same people that
Yeah,
kidnapped the kids, even
right.
though they used Alex to
Yeah.
do it. But
There's
yeah,
nothing that these people are going to do to him that hasn't already happened to him. In fact, the physical is kind of a commentary in a way on the reason that they say that the physical TORTURE doesn't work, right?
mhm,
Because it's actually the mental and the spiritual and the psychic TORTURE that breaks them, or that makes him
right,
hide in this regress into this like infant version of himself.
right.
Maybe he's not. Maybe he's not this. Maybe he is play acting this role, right? And
Right.
he just does it for his own safety. I don't
Well,
know.
that's the whole question throughout the whole movie, because the way that the movie is shot, and
Yeah,
the certain scenes where you get a real where the camera stays on Alex's face,
yeah,
it really makes you question whether or
yeah,
not and if he is playing a role, he's doing a damn good
yeah.
job because he's held up to all this torture.
I
Yeah.
mean, if he has the IQ of a 8-year-old or whatever, then how is he driving the RV around? I mean, I'm not
Right.
saying that he got a license.
Well, that's what Keller asked the
Yeah,
cop too. He says, How is he driving the
right.
RV?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So when they pin Alex to the wall, Keller says that was close, and then we get a shot of Keller outside the room where Alex is tied up, and he's got a bandsaw and he's got plywood, and we see him constructing something with Nancy and Franklin basically standing outside the room, like, oh my goodness, like this is bad news. Um, so then we cut to Nancy in her kitchen thinking solemnly. Then there's a knock on the door and it's Keller, and he says, "I need to show you something." So then they go. So this is the next day, and Keller
yeah.
basically shows up at Nancy and Franklin's house. "I need to show you something." So they go back to the apartments, and she says, "Did he say anything new?" And he says, "He will soon. You'll see." And then
Mm,
they enter the bathroom where they're holding him. But instead of the bathtub, is now a cage that's been built over with plywood. It's completely sealed off. The bathtub is completely sealed off from floor to ceiling with wood, and there's only one little black peephole
yeah.
with like plastic around it. That's the only entrance to and out is that little hole.
Yeah,
And
this is twisted because he's a carpenter, right?
right,
Um,
exactly, another part of the Christian sort of
yeah, so
symbolism.
he's supposed to be a carpenter, but he's gone into this dark place, right, where he's using the tools of his trade, and the way to save himself, and he's now using him to enslave this guy, right, to entrap him. And that's one of the twisted moral and spiritual elements that is being engendered like throughout the film by the
Right,
bad people.
right. So basically, he shows them this cage, and we haven't brought this up yet, but the whole reason the film's called Prisoners is
Yeah,
because each one of these characters are prisoners in their own. That's why it's not called Prisoner. There's only one guy who's
right.
trapped in this cage, but they're all prisoners in
They're
their own
all
way.
prisoners. Everything, and it does a great job of that
Yeah,
because the character development shows that each one of them, every single character in this
right.
is a prisoner. The wife is a prisoner,
The
right?
son,
The son is a prisoner. Viola Davis becomes a prisoner of what they've clued her into. Terrence Howard is a prisoner.
right.
The kids obviously are literally.
And
Um,
Loki was a prisoner as a kid, but now because he sort of he broke out of that labyrinth or solved that maze, but
but he
now
has to go
in
back
this
in.
he has to go back in
Right.
exactly. Yes. So he shows this cage and he says no light gets in. There's barely enough room to sit down inside. He says the shower still works, but we control it from out here. I rigged the water heater so that it either comes out scalding or freezing. And in my notes, I wrote, is that even possible? Like, how do you rig it so where it only comes out either scalding hot or freezing? But I don't know. And he says you can talk to him through this, and he points to a little plastic hole
Oh no,
next to a.
that's what I've got in my crib.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's it. There's two
yeah.
sets.
Right. And right next to the little peephole where you can talk to him through is a picture of their daughters hanging up. And he says, I put this picture here. He says, so this can remind us of them in case we start feeling sorry for this guy. So every time they want, because already up to this point, it's been 5, 6 days, and it's actually been 6 days at this point. Uh, there has been that sort of tension between, oh, we really, this guy's a bastard. He's got our kids, but then there's also, man, we really feel bad for him because we're becoming brutes. We're becoming monsters to fight the monster. Um, and so Nancy sees this and goes, "My God!" And Franklin shakes his head like, "This is too far, man. This is too far." And Keller says, "I couldn't hurt him anymore without killing him. So this is the only way."
Yeah.
And Franklin says, "Have you lost your mind, Keller? Like, have you lost your friggin' mind?" And Keller says, "Do you have a better idea, Franklin? Do you? Go ahead. Let him out if you want. I'm not going to stop you. If that's what you really want, then you go ahead. Do you think someone else is out there looking for our girls the way you're looking out for him?" And Franklin cries and he says, "I hope." He says, "It's been 5 days now, man. We're running out of time." He says, "You don't even know it's him. You don't even know this is the guy." He says, "Yes, I do." He goes, "No, you don't. I do. I know you. You don't. You
Yeah.
don't know if this is the guy." He says, "I do." He says, "Look, I want my baby back just as much as you, as much as you, Miss Anna. And despite what you think about me, I would die for my daughter. But this isn't right. This has to stop." And he says, "Well, then you better get to work." And he picks up the hammer and he hands it to him. And he says, "I'd start with that wall there." And he walks away.
Yeah.
Franklin approaches the wall with the hammer and he's going to start busting the wall down to let Alex out.
Yeah.
To which Nancy then walks up and says, "Franklin, stop." And Franklin starts to wedge at the door. She says, "Franklin, think of Joy." And he cries and he stops and he drops the hammer and he walks out. And then we get the shot of Alex's eye. He's in the dark, and you see the little bit of light coming through the hole, and you see Alex's eye there.
Eliminate,
And
confirm.
illuminate, confirm, and that's when we go, "Oh man, this guy might be like an evil genius."
Yeah,
Like
the
we
one
really,
the one eye peeping out of the darkness, right?
yeah,
But that one eye is seen. He's seen. He knows what's happening.
because it's not a sympathetic shot. It's not like
Yeah.
a, "Oh, what was me" shot. It's a, "This guy might be a real
Yeah.
monster."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
So
realized, is he Franklin because of Pennsylvania? I don't know. He's supposed to be the wise,
is he Frank? Is he Franklin because of the turtle?
He's he's the wise guy with the damn key
Right.
and electricity or whatever the hell that. I don't know.
Right.
That guy was a pervert. That guy was a pervert though.
Mhm.
Franklin. Anyway.
So Franklin and Nancy go home, and but before they do, so they're pulling up into their driveway, but then we get a shot of the inside of their home. And their daughter, Eliza, who is the older teenage daughter, is
Yeah.
taking a bath. She's in the bathroom. So we do cut from the abandoned building bathroom basically right into the bathroom at the nice house. And we see that there's an intruder in
Yeah.
their house.
The perspective changes, the point of view completely changes, and that's when the movie fragments at that point.
Mhm.
Because usually we have the character point of view, and we have well, a lot of it is from Loki's point of view,
Yeah.
and so the audience is always following what's happening with the story. But all of a sudden we have something jarring here, which is an interior shot of the house when
Right.
none of the characters are supposed to be in the house.
Right.
None of the main characters, so we know something's wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we see the intruder walking up the steps towards the bathroom that Eliza, their teenage daughter, is in, and she's like talking on the phone with somebody. I didn't write down what she was talking about. I forget what she was talking about, but she's in the bathtub basically. And Nancy, if we cut to the shot of Nancy now in the car with Franklin, who they just arrived, they're in their driveway, and she says, "Look, we're not going to help Keller, but we're not going to stop him either. Let him do what he needs to do. We don't know about it anymore." So at this point, she's saying, "Look, I know this has gotten really messed up, but we're not going to snitch on him, and we're not going to go there anymore. We'll just let Keller deal with this, because Keller's the one who's really like, he's going to do this no matter what." And so basically, she says like, we're not gonna mess with him anymore. So Franklin then looks disgusted at her and sad but confused. So Franklin's like, "Who are you? You know what I mean? Like, who's my wife? Like, I never thought she was capable of this." Nancy then goes inside. She goes up the stairs that we just saw the intruder go up. So we're like, okay, what's going on? So she starts knocking on the bathroom door. It's locked, but there's no answer. So then Franklin walks up and she hears Nancy like, "Hey, like, let us in, let us in. Like, what's going on?" So then Franklin's like about to bust the door down. He's literally like getting ready to bust the door down. And just as he goes to bust the door down, the door opens and it's Liza. And she goes, "Fuck you both. Next time you're going to leave me here alone, at least tell me where you're going." And then she storms into her bedroom. So we're going, where's the intruder? Right? We just saw the intruder walk up the stairs. And then when there's no answer, you think either he's in the bathroom with her or he's kidnapped her or what's happened. But nope. Eliza's fine. She doesn't seem to have realized that anybody's in there. So what was this intruder doing? So she storms into her bedroom, and then we see the intruder walking into Keller's house. So it cuts to Keller's house, and we see an intruder in his house.
Yeah.
The wife hears a noise and wakes up. She gets up and goes into Anna's room, the missing girl, and she's like, "Anna, Anna." For some reason she thinks Anna's home, like when she hears this noise. So she's calling out for Anna. She goes into Anna's room and she looks around, and there's a window that's open.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Anna was here." Like, what is she talking about? So Loki then arrives that night. She calls the cops. Loki arrives and she explains what happened. And Loki's like listening to her, like, "Dude, nothing happened. Like, you just heard a noise." Like, and she goes, "Aren't you going to write this down?" Because like Loki's kind of like not taking this seriously, because it's like this girl has been all pulled up and she heard a noise and so she called the cops. So he pulls out the notepad and he writes down, "In the house, window open." That's all he writes.
Yeah, and actually, that's interesting because you sympathize with her because you think that he's not taking it seriously, but you should know that he is taking it seriously.
Yes.
And that none of the details are going to escape him. In fact, the fact that he writes it down
Right.
will play a part later in the movie,
Right.
because he writes down the one thing that he's going to be able to use, and he remembers that he wrote it. And also, the open window. I mean, come on, like, when this is happening and the character says something, it doesn't matter that she's all, she's, on Valium or whatever. Listen to the woman. Why is the window open?
Yeah.
Right? You get home. I mean, look, if you get home and the window's open, like, man, you better go for that thing.
Right. And she is actually not technically on Valium, but she is on some sort of benzo, because we actually see the pill bottle. It's like
bromazepam or something.
Yes. So she basically, after he writes this down, "In the house, window open," she then takes him into the basement, the prepper basement, where Loki gets the first glimpse of this prepper basement. And the wife goes, "The kids know they're not allowed down here. They're not supposed to come down here, but I don't know." Then we see the MREs, the ammo, the propane, guns, tools, a big bag of lye. She says, "My husband likes to be prepared in cases of emergency." And he stares at the bag of lye and he says, "Where is your husband, Mrs. Dover?" So now we start getting the idea that Loki's suspicious of Keller.
Yeah, big mistake.
Yeah, big mistake. And so he's staring at the bag of lye, and she goes, "I was going to ask you the same thing. He's out searching with the police, which you should be doing right now."
Yeah, well, you know what? You know, it's you don't need to be showing the guy around the basement. You're not the one that did it,
Right.
right? Don't be saying too much to the
Yeah.
to the 50. Go out there and do your job.
Right,
Right?
right. But so yeah, so now we find out that she's been lied to. She thinks Keller's out looking with the police, and now we know that Loki knows he's lied to his wife because basically, what you call it, Loki knows that he hasn't been out there searching with the cops.
Yeah.
So then basically, he asks her, he says, "Does he always stay out this late?" And she says, "Yes, he stays out this late when he's looking for his daughter since my daughter has been missing." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he does. Like ever
Yeah.
since our kid got kidnapped. So then Loki trails Keller, and Keller spots him trailing him. So we see
Uh-huh.
Keller walking down the street towards the abandoned building where he has Alex tied up.
Yeah.
And basically, Keller
Turn-
notices Loki's car,
Yeah. And then sketchily turns around.
turns around, and then
Right.
walks to the liquor store that's
Yeah.
across the street. And then
Yeah.
so Loki parks the car, and he's looking and he's watching Keller. Keller
Yeah.
walks into the liquor store, and you're wondering, is he gonna like sneak out the back or what's going on? But then like 5 seconds later, Keller comes walking out with a bottle of liquor
Uh-huh.
in his hand, and he's walking straight for Loki's car. And
And
Loki realizes he's been made.
yeah. He's
What?
been made. He's got it on his breath too, right? He's drinking the liquor.
Yeah.
Loki, I think does Loki know he has a drinking problem? That point,
Not at this point. Not at
Yeah.
this point. He opens the bottle. He
Yeah.
takes a swig and he's walking right
Yeah.
towards it. He walks right up to Loki's
Yeah.
driver's side door.
Yeah.
Loki rolls down the window, and basically Keller says, "Why are you following me?" And Loki says, "Get in the car." And so he
Yeah.
gets in the car and says, "Why are you following me?" He goes, "Where were you going just now?" And he goes, "I parked at the liquor store. I have a
Yeah.
bottle of liquor. You're the shit hot detective. You figure it out."
Uh-huh.
And he goes, I actually meant before that." He goes, "You were walking in the opposite direction across the parking lot towards
Yeah.
Campello Street." And he goes, "Yeah, well, I haven't had a drink in 9.5 years. Figured if I walk around the parking lot a while, by the time it opened, I'd stop wanting it that bad. And then I saw you, and it sort of helped me make up my mind."
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense.
So
And
then we find out.
he also says at one point, like, "Am I a suspect?"
Right. Well,
Like,
yeah.
know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's when we find out that he has the drinking problem. That's when Loki
Yeah.
finds out, and we find out. So then Loki asks him, he goes, "There's a bag of lye in your basement that's half empty. Your wife thinks you've been helping us, but we both know that's not true." And he
Uh-huh.
says, "I used the lye to bury our dog last year, and helping the cops sounds better than I've been driving aimlessly in my truck because I don't know what the fuck else to do." He
Right.
goes, "Is that what you were doing last Saturday night?" He goes, "Probably. Am I a suspect?" "No, I'm only asking because you assaulted a man who's now missing." He's talking about when he punched him in the police station
Right.
parking lot. He goes, "I heard about that. What happened? I thought you had him under surveillance." And then Loki looks at him, smiles, and goes, "I'm assuming you're asking because you have no idea what's happened to him."
Right.
Because Loki's suspecting that maybe this guy like took him out or something. Like he has no idea what to expect. So he says, "I'm going to assume you're asking me what happened because you don't know what happened." And he
Yeah.
says, he goes, "Well," he goes, "I didn't think it was something I'd get away with." And Loki says, "It's not." So Keller's playing this off pretty cool. He's like, "Yeah, no, I didn't hurt him. I didn't do anything to him. I didn't think I'd get away with it." And Loki looks at him and goes, "Yeah, it's not something you'd get away with. So you
Yeah.
better not be doing it because we're gonna find out." And he says, "It couldn't be that he skipped town because the asshole's guilty. Oh, couldn't be that because that would mean it would be your fault, right?" Talking
Mm.
to Loki.
Yeah.
And Loki then looks at him and says, "Mr. Dover," he goes, "you need to take care of yourself and you need to take care of your wife. That's the best thing you can do right now. That little girl is going to need you when she comes home," which is true. You know, he's like, "You're out here, you're drinking, you're getting mad at me. Like, your wife is home alone. Like, come on."
Yeah. Yeah. And he freaks out. He freaks out. It's so believable too.
Yeah.
Because everything ramps up and he kind of says the characters say everything that you want them to say
Hmm.
in the movie. There's no cheap withholding of things. It's like everything has a purpose when you're watching it, even for the first time. And when he freaks out, I like Loki's reaction. You know, he's freaking out in the car and he's like, "Mr. Dober, Mr. Dober, Mr. Dober,
Right.
calm down. Like we're gonna, we're gonna get through it."
Right.
Um,
Thank you, Polymathin. What's up, dude?
yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
very cool. Very cool comment. Thank you.
$5 super chat. It says, "New subscriber. Loving the back catalog. Bayslit analyzing. Marvelous intellectual and entertaining perspectives. Likewise, Jerry as well. Great work. Thank you so much, dude. Really appreciate that.
I
And
really
yeah,
appreciate
everybody, if you like the stream, please super chat. It does help us better if you use the links that he's got: Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal. Because
Yes.
with these YouTube super chats, number one, we don't get them right away, and number two, we got to pay Susan Wojcicki a cut, and we don't want to pay YouTube nothing. So
Yes. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody.
Thank
And I'll get to the super chats at the end.
Yep.
And again, I really appreciate that. Yeah, Jerry's right. I mean, I never wanted to explain it before because it's kind of whatever. But yeah, you just got on it that super chats, when you click the super chat, it doesn't get to me. These won't get to me till I think February.
Yeah.
So because of the lag time. So
And even then, too, you have to make 100 before they'll even pay you.
That's
So
right.
it might not even be until February. It
Yes.
might be till March or May, depending on how many
Yeah,
you
that's
get.
right. Yeah. You got to make an amount you got to make 100 every month.
Right.
So
Oh,
so
really? Every month?
yes. Yeah.
That's nuts. So
That's the floor.
so
Yeah.
you won't get it. Does it roll over?
I don't know. I don't know if it
Wow.
will. Yeah. But I do know that this will get to us right away. And I really appreciate that, though.
For real.
Thank you for that $5. Really appreciate it. You guys really need the support. It's coming up to the end of the year here. Jerry and I both really, and I wouldn't be saying it if it weren't true. We really need the support, man. I had to put my trip off because I had to take my car in twice in 3 days, and I'm trying to get this 1,000 miles to my family. So really appreciate it. If you would support us, we'll be splitting this 50-50. So thank you so much. So Jerry, please continue with your.
All right. Yes. So we got Loki and Keller in the car. He basically tells him, your wife is going to need you. Your kid, when we find this kid, is going to need you. So please, he's basically asking, please don't destroy yourself while looking for this monster.
Yeah.
Because we know Loki has already been through this once
That's
before.
right.
He's already dealt with the Minotaur in his own life of being abused as a child. And he knows, look, this can either destroy you or you can come through it. And so in this way, he's basically telling him, sort of subtextually, sort of subconsciously telling him, don't destroy yourself trying to find this.
He's not only dealt with it with himself, but he's dealt with this for the rest of his life every time he solves the case. And he solved all of them. So, and so he says to him, which I thought was pretty endearing. He says, she's going to need you. Your daughter's going to need you when we bring her back. And he's telling the truth here. And you believe that he's going to bring them back.
Yes.
So,
yeah. But then Keller responds and says, look, kids gone for more than a week have half as good a chance of being found. And after a month, almost none of them are found. Not alive, right? He says, so forgive me for doing everything I can to basically forget my troubles. And he says, Loki looks at him and goes, you know what? It hasn't even been a fucking week yet, dude.
That's right.
Like, what are you talking about? See, Keller's trying to paint this picture of like a hopeless dad when really he's just trying to misdirect because he's got Alex tied up.
That's
so
right.
He's trying to make this guy think that he's despairing, but Loki sees right through it and he's like, dude, it hasn't even been a week yet. You've already given up. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, he also says that because he's conscious of the time. I mean, look, this is like when when they find the suspect because they start talking about the victim in the past tense. And he doesn't do that because we know that he wants his daughter to be alive. But Loki, on the other hand, is hyper aware of the time.
Yes.
Right. He lives by the time. So he knows that it hasn't been a week, even if it's been, 6 days, 6 days and 23 hours. He knows that it hasn't been a week yet.
Right. But it's 6 days, like you just said.
Yes.
Yeah. So he goes, you're right. It hasn't been a week. It's day fucking 6. Day 6. And every day, he says, every day she's wondering why I'm not there to rescue her. Not you. She's wondering why I'm not there to rescue her. And he slams the car with his hand and he walks out. And it's snowing out. And so he basically walks all the way home. He leaves his car there. And basically, because Loki tells him, you don't think I'm going to let you drive home, do you? And he goes, I'm walking. So he leaves his car there. And he walks all the way home and he lays down in bed and he goes to sleep and he has a dream of his daughter. Now, look, right before his daughter got kidnapped, Anna and Joy got kidnapped. Anna is telling him how she lost her red whistle or whatever. And I believe she tells him she found it or something like that right before she gets kidnapped.
Yeah.
He has a dream where Anna is in the room with him. He looks over, she's in the corner and she's got the whistle and she goes, look, Daddy, I found it. And that's the dream he has basically.
Yeah.
So let's see, where am I at? Yeah. He wakes up. Then we cut to Loki and he's on his computer in the police station and he's looking up articles and it says Graterford guard commits suicide in home. That's Keller's dad.
Yeah.
And he sees that his dad's home in the article is listed on Campello Street. And he was just confronting Keller. Why were you walking towards Campbell Street? Once he sees that, he goes, "Oh shit, oh shit, there's something more there." So basically, Keller then finds out about the apartments. He looks it up. He finds out that his dad had the apartment there. He finds it. That's exactly where he was walking. So then now Loki is at the apartment building that Alex is there, and he's walking around outside and he's looking around. And so Keller walks towards the apartment. Oh, sorry, I skipped ahead. Keller walks towards the apartment. He goes inside and locks the door, and he turns on the water, the hot water, and we hear Alex screaming. And then when he turns it on, Alex screams, and then he turns it off, and we hear Alex, and he's whimpering something very quietly. And so Keller gets up to listen to it, and we hear him say, "I'm not Alex. I'm not Alex." He goes, "What?" And he says, "I'm not Alex. I waited, and he never came." And he says, "No more riddles. Just tell me." He goes, "I'll let you go home to your aunt if you just tell me where they are." And he says, "I just wanted to play, and he never came. I just wanted to play." And he says, "Why are you making me do this?" Because he doesn't want to do this anymore either. He's really struggling. "Why are you making me do this?" And he's about to turn the water back on, and then he just falls to his knees and he starts to pray. And he says, "Help me, God." He says, "I'm relying on your almighty power and your infinite mercies and promises. I hope to obtain pardon for my sins." And then Loki arrives at the apartments, and we see Loki driving up just as Keller's sitting there praying.
But good for you, man. How often does this happen in movies, right? I mean, look, he drops to his knees and he prays. I mean, look, most of these movies is completely taken out.
Right.
It just doesn't occur. So at least we got that. And then he sees Loki outside, and then
he hears the car door shut.
Right. And then he looks through the window, sees him. He's got a little subterfuge planned. He knows there's nothing I can do here. I'm going to do my best. So he goes downstairs, lies down,
pretends to be sleeping.
Pretends to be sleeping, got that bottle of liquor beside him. And he busts into the place, and then what?
Loki takes a crowbar, like removes the plywood off the window and hops through the window, and he sees him laying there, and it doesn't seem like Loki's really buying it. Like Loki's like, he knows something's up, so he goes, "Get up, Mr. Keller." He doesn't say like, "Hey dude, wake up." He's like, "Get up, Mr. Keller." Like, I'm here. He finds Keller sleeping. He says, "Hey, rise and shine." He goes, and he doesn't even stop. He keeps walking. Look, he says, "Hey, rise and shine. I'm not going to find two little girls here, am I?" So then we hear, okay, now he really suspects them. He says, "Fuck you." He says, "Well, what about Alex Jones?" And he says, "What about him?" He says, "I came here to drink. I don't want to drink in front of my wife. Look, my father left me this building, all right?" He goes, "Well, you mind giving me a tour?" And he gets up. He says, "Why didn't you tell me about this place?" He said, "I didn't think it mattered." To which Loki then says, "Everything matters."
Yep, that's true. That's true. And you're thinking, oh boy, he's going to go upstairs, right?
Yeah, cops are taught to search everywhere.
Well, especially this fucking guy. He's going to go upstairs.
That's the thing is, like, people don't realize, like, you're not, like, people want to hide their drugs in their belt, or they want to hide things. Dude, cops are literally taught to search everywhere.
This guy is going upstairs, and he's noticing everything, and there's got to be some sort of deus ex machina here that's going to pull him out of the situation, and then that's what occurs.
He's going to search every single room. Given enough time, he's going to search every room. So so they start walking around, and you can see Keller's trying to sort of direct the search. He's trying to keep them over here, don't go over there. And Keller says, "Yeah, it's all pretty much like this, pretty dilapidated." He goes, "I'm going to renovate it soon." And he says, "Yeah, not as organized as your basement, huh? What's up with all the survivor gear in there?" Which is true. Loki has a good sense for people, and he knows Keller is very organized and very prepared. And now he's getting a glimpse into Keller's psyche. He's getting a glimpse that inside it's not so organized.
Right. Yeah.
What did Jethro just say? What about him?
He said, "What about?" Because he said, Alex Jones was saying this. "What about Papa Ewok?" I didn't know I was in this movie. Right. Look, I'm not bragging, folks, but I'm great friends with Richard Linklater. All right.
So he says, "Yeah, it's not as organized as your basement," basically revealing that he's been to his house. And
they call the movie Prisoners because did you know it's about us? It's what Gil Gates and Carl Schwab has made us all do.
yeah, prisoners. This is about FEMA Region 6, you know.
Yeah.
So he basically reveals his hand that, yeah, I've been in your basement and I'm aware of, you know, your situation there. It's not as organized as your basement. What's up with all the survivor gear down there?
Mm,
And to which Keller then says, pray for the best, prepare for the worst. And then Loki says, at least we agree on that.
yeah.
So
Which again, everything is relevant, right? And he repeats that phrase.
right, pray
Right.
for the best,
Yeah. He'll repeat that at the
prepare.
end of the film. Yep.
Yeah. So he says, "Come on, hurry up." And so, you know, he can see that the Keller's trying to slow walk him through this, and he's like, "Hurry up, we gotta search this place." So then they reach the part of the house, the apartment where Alex is in. It's like a little small apartment. You know, Alex is tied up in the bathroom. At least the bathroom is boarded up, so it
Yeah.
doesn't look like a cage from outside unless
Yeah.
you really like look at it. But the whole time too, you're wondering like, is Alex going to make a noise? Because when Keller first saw that Loki arrived, he told Alex, he says, "You don't make a peep, or I'm turning that water on, and I'm going to
Yeah.
basically melt your skin off." You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, prisoners planets.
Yeah. I mean, it does look like a Al Qaeda black site.
Yeah.
You know, the way that he's built the shower and the way that it looks on the outside.
Yep. So Loki gets into the apartment where Alex is at, and he's approaching the bathroom, and he looks in briefly. It's like a hallway, and you've got rooms up ahead, and then the room where Keller's standing in, and then the bathroom right there. Loki walks right past the bathroom and looks in. Doesn't go into it yet. He's still going, but he just kind of glances in, and then he gets a phone call. Shit. He picks up the phone. Hello. And it's the checkout girl. The
Yeah.
checkout says, "The guy you were looking for, he was just here. He saw me watching and he ran." So then he says, "Did you get the plate?" And he writes it down on his pad. He writes something down on his pad. He says, "Go home, Mr. Dover," and he just runs. So you know, he was right there. He was about to find Alex. He gets this call that the guy he's looking for, you know, is right at the Value Mall. So instead of searching the rest of the house, he basically says, "Okay, Keller's obviously not the guy," you know, and he basically just tells him to go home, and Loki leaves. Phew, that was a close one. You know what I mean? Like he was right
Yeah.
there. Um, let's see.
Yeah. The phone call is the Deus Ex Machina, right?
Right.
He's taken out of the situation, and we find out, you know.
So he arrives at the address for the
Yeah.
plate that the girl got. We don't see any of the other stuff like you said. Like next shot is Loki outside this house, and you know,
Yeah.
oh, he's at the house. He's at the creepy guy buying the kid's clothes house.
Yeah. This scene is great.
It's crazy, man. We
Yeah.
get the shot of inside the door right before it opens, and you just see like this much of the wall, but on
Yeah.
the wall you see a pencil drawing of
Yep.
a labyrinth,
Yes.
of the maze, and it's like, oh shit, this is the
Yeah.
guy you're thinking. So the door opens up, and there's Loki on the porch.
Yeah.
Morning.
And immediately when you see the guy's face, the way they chose to do this scene is great because it's calm. You know, it's this guy talking to the other one. You know that Loki knows already that something's up just by seeing his face. Because when he opens the door, right, you see the guy's face. Hi,
Right.
yes, you know,
Right.
and he's got that severe look on his face, like, okay,
Right.
what's going on in here? Yeah, what were you doing, man?
Right. Yeah. So he
Why,
said,
why are you buying these clothes, man?
well, yeah, he says,
Uh,
"Morning. Why'd you run
uh,
from me?" He cuts
yeah,
straight to it. He
he
goes,
does.
"Morning. Why'd you run from me?" And
Yeah,
Loki's got this big smile on his face because
yeah,
what do we hear all the time? He solves every one of his cases, and you can
uh-huh,
see on Loki on his face, he's just like, "I got him. I got the guy. Here he
uh-huh,
is." Yeah, doesn't even see the mazes on the walls. Just sees the guy's face. He knows this is the guy that ran from me. He goes, "Why'd you run away the other night?" And the guy says, "I've never seen you before. You sure you have the right house?" And he goes, "You doing some shopping at the Value Mall recently?"
yeah,
He goes, "Yeah, why? Is it a crime?" And then they both laugh awkwardly. And he says, "Yeah, you bought children's clothes."
uh-huh,
And he says, "Did I? Must have been in a hurry." He says, "Mm-hmm. Do you have children?" "No." And he slams the door
yeah,
closed, and he starts to try to get away, to which Loki basically sticks his foot in the door and busts through the door and just
yeah,
tackles the guy
yeah,
immediately, and
yeah.
puts the
Get his
gun.
ass. Yeah,
Yeah, puts the gun to his head, and then you get the inside shot of the house, and every wall is covered in labyrinth
yeah,
drawings and scribblings and dirty shit everywhere, and you're like, "Oh man, this dude's a psycho." Um, so he handcuffs him, and the whole house is covered in maze scribblings. As he's walking through the house looking for the kids, in the kitchen there's a pig's head covered in flies in
yeah,
the sink, and
yeah.
it's like, and that's going to come into to topic later on. At this point, it's just like this dude's a psycho. He's got like chopped up animal parts in the
Right.
house. Like, what the hell? He finds a locked room and he busts the room and he finds a bunch of locked crates, probably like 15 of these like heavy plastic crates with padlocks on them.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, are the kids locked in these
In the,
crates? That's what you think at first. And so, or maybe it's body parts, or maybe it's something to do with these kids are in here. So he sees the crates and he starts to get a crowbar out and he busts all of them open. And he puts the creeper into the back of the squad car and gets the crowbar out of his trunk and he goes in and starts busting the crates open. As soon as he busts open the first crate, we see bloody clothes, but bloody children's clothes. And you're
yes.
like, oh shit. So he removes some of the clothes, and as soon as he does that, there's like 4 snakes
Yeah.
in the live snakes, and they start coming out. Whoa,
Yeah.
And then he's kind of scared at first and he's like looking at these snakes, but then he's like, no, screw it. And he starts busting open every single one of them. And each time he finds bloody children's clothes and live snakes. And then we get the shot of just like fucking like 30 snakes just
Yes.
crawling out the room into the rest of the house. And there's like so many snakes in the room.
Yeah, this is so satanic. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're in this house with this guy with this Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies head, with drawings of labyrinths all over the walls,
Right.
with black suitcases everywhere, with blood, these bloody clothes, and then you get these. You're in a snake pit, right? And finally, the last one that he busts open, it's just a book.
It's a notebook, yeah.
Yeah, it's a notebook. He opens it up, and
on the front cover says, "If you finish the mazes, you can go home."
Right.
And you're like, "Oh, we got him. We got the guy." Like,
Yeah.
shit. And it's a notebook that's full of mazes, and snakes are. So he's reading this, and snakes are literally crawling over Loki's feet as he's reading this. So then we cut to Keller in the police station. Mr. Dover, is your wife here? Loki asks. No, she's not coming. He says, look, if you can't make a positive ID on any of these photographs, I'm going to need her to come in here and take a look at them. So Keller's like, fuck, So basically at this point, your kids are dead. We found a bunch of bloody clothes, and we're pretty sure some of these bloody clothes are your kids' clothes.
Yeah.
So you need to. So he's trying to show him pictures of these bloody clothes so that he can point and say, "Yep, that's my daughter's shirt. That's my daughter's sock, or whatever." Yeah. And so you can just see Keller's just like defeated. Like he doesn't want to believe that his daughter's dead, but Loki and the cops are like pretty certain that she is. So he goes into the room and he starts showing him photographs, and he says, "So he confessed he killed them?" And Loki says, "We were hoping that he was lying." He says, "We haven't found any bodies, but the Birches have already positively identified 2 pieces of bloody clothing." And he shows him these pictures, and he says, "No." And then to another photo, "I'm not sure." And then to a bloody sock with a little bunny rabbit on it. And he says, "That's her sock." And he starts to cry. And he says, "You wasted time." He said, "You wasted time following me. You let this happen." And then he walks out. So yeah, he starts blaming Loki. Then we see Keller's wife is asleep at home, and his son is sitting in the room. And the news vans start arriving outside of Keller's house, and you're like, "Oh man, dude, the paparazzi's there!" Like now they've released it that this child kidnapper has been found, and all these bloody clothes have been found, and now these couples who had their kids missing, they're presumed dead now, and so now the media circus is arriving, and we see the son just sitting in his room like really messed up. The wife is still asleep, and Keller goes up to his son and says, "Don't talk to them." And the son says, "Eliza told me that they're dead. Is it true?" And he says, "No." And he says, "She said they found bloody clothes." Eliza is obviously Franklin's teenage daughter. He says, "Don't you dare tell your mother that. You understand? I need you to listen to me. I need you to stay at the house for a couple days and make sure she doesn't watch the news." And it's like, dude, come on, man. Like, come on. Like the son's trying to get closure, which is it's a good thing that they don't give up, but it's like at this point you're like, Keller, dude, like what are you doing? Like, yeah, you're telling your 16-year-old son, stay home. Make sure your mom doesn't watch TV or listen to the radio or read the newspaper. He tells him, he goes, the newspaper arrives, throw it in the trash. Keep your mom sheltered. It's like he's asking the impossible from his son. And then basically he says, we do not give up on your sister. I'm going to find her. I'm going to bring her home. We do not give up. And then he says, you're going to bring her home? She's dead. You can't do anything. You've been leaving me and mom here while you go out getting drunk. You think I can't effing smell it on you? He screams, to which Keller grabs him, slams him up against the wall, tells him to shut up, and then he walks away.
Yeah, and this is the point of what we find out this is the point of the whole thing, because it's made them come apart.
Yeah.
Right, the entire family has come apart. It's made the father and the son sort of have a rift between them. It's put a rift in between all these characters,
Yep.
and we don't know at this point. We still don't know what's the double nature of what's happening, right?
Mhm.
Because even the dad can't reveal to his son why he smells like liquor.
Right.
Right, he can't reveal that to his own son.
And we know that he is drinking again, but he's drinking again. Not at first, I thought he was doing it just to have a backstory, but then I realized he's doing it because he's torturing this dude, and
Right.
he's drinking to sort of like calm his nerves or to prepare himself for doing this horrible stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we cut to Bob Taylor, who's the creep. We find out the creep's name is Bob Taylor.
Yeah.
And he's in the interrogation room, and he's drawing a maze. He's drawing the same sort of labyrinth that was on the necklace,
Which is
and on the
not good.
walls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. He's
No.
drawing it. And we find out he's been drawing it for the last 3.5 hours. Loki and some other detectives are looking through the two-way mirror or whatever. And he's talking to the other detectives. That's how we find out that it was 3.5 hours. They're like, how long has he been doing this? He's like, 3.5 hours. He goes, he said it's a map. And I'm hoping that he's going to lead us to the bodies if we let him draw this.
Yeah.
So then Loki basically gets fed up, and he walks into the interrogation room, and he looks at and he says, "Tell me what you're drawing. You said it was a map, but it looks like a puzzle." And he takes Bob Taylor's head and he slams his head on the desk.
Oh yeah.
And at this, the other cops start rushing to get into the
Yeah.
room, and he basically just starts whooping the crap out of this guy. And he's like, "You better tell me where they are. Stop wasting my time." So the cops try to grab Loki and separate them. And in the scuffle, Bob Taylor pulls Loki's gun. He actually gets the cop's gun.
Yeah.
And they're, whoa, 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 whoa. So now you got the cops on one side of the room and Bob Taylor on the other with a gun.
Yeah.
And basically he's like, you think he's going to shoot them? He turns the gun onto himself and shoots himself.
Yeah. Horrible way for this situation to be resolved.
That's your only lead. That's your only lead to find the bodies.
Right. I mean, it's horrible, but it's not horrible.
Yeah.
But it's horrible because no one is right and no one is like totally right and totally wrong in this situation again, right? Loki's great because he's doing what needs to be done in the situation, but it's reckless, right? And that mirrors what Hugh Jackman. I mean, in this part of the movie, he kind of falls into the Hugh Jackman thing where he goes too far in trying to find out, and then there's this situation that occurs and then like the next scene is he's in there with the chief or whatever. Hands him the bottle of liquor, and he's like, "Look, man, don't worry.
Yeah,
it's all right." And you're like, "Damn, okay. Well, at least the chief is."
Well, he's like, we all screw up. He's like, or actually, he says that. I think he says that before that the guy shoots himself. He gives him the liquor or whatever, and he's like, we all lose some, man. Like you had a good run, you lost this case. It's not that big a deal. But I remember once the guy shoots himself, Loki's sitting out in like the hallway. It's just like this, and
that's where you have them.
Yeah, and the chief walks up and is like, these guys are gonna hate you now or something like I forget exactly what he said. Maybe I wrote it down, but yeah, so
who gives a shit? Who gives a shit if they hate him?
Right. So then we cut to Keller, who is now sitting outside of the bathroom that Alex is tied up in, and he's basically sitting in the doorway and he's praying again, and he's saying the Our Father prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Yeah. And right when he gets up to, and we forgive those who trespass against us, he can't say it. And it's like, yeah, exactly. He can't forgive. Like here, he's got this guy tied up, and he says the whole prayer. And once he gets to that point, he stops and he can't say it. Yeah. He can't forgive. So then Loki's boss hands Loki the puzzle he drew. That's the part where he's sitting in the hallway. And he hands Loki the puzzle that the guy was drawing, the maze. And he says, "Can you explain this?" To which Loki just says, "I'm sorry." And he says, "Fuck your sorry. Save it for the girl's parents." That's what he says. He says, "Fuck your sorry. Save it for the girl's parents."
Right.
So then we cut back to Keller, and Keller's now talking through the little peephole with Alex, and he says, "I think we're done." He says, "I don't know what to do anymore. Fucked up part is I know you know where they are. I know you know." And then Alex says, "They're in the maze. That's where you'll find them, in the maze."
Yeah.
But he won't say any more.
That's so fucked up because they are.
Yeah.
Right. That is exactly where they are, but it's not what you think it means.
And that's all Alex can say to understand it because of his mental
maze, because he himself is still in the maze.
Right.
The guy who just killed himself is still in the maze. That's why he draws mazes everywhere, because he can't get out of the maze.
Right.
And when they find the book that says if you find your way out of the maze, you can be free. That's the twisted evil part, right?
Right,
Is
right.
that the maze is meant for them to never find their way out.
Exactly.
Which
Yeah.
is why he continuously draws mazes all over his house.
Yeah, I'm
And
pretty
even
sure
when,
I have. Sorry, go on. Go on.
even when he gets out of his house, even when he's going about his business or whatever, the maze is now on the outside.
Yes.
He'll never escape it because he's still trapped on the inside. So what we find out when we go back to the house and they're doing the excavating, at the house
That's what I was about to say. Is I think I
Yeah.
have that in my notes, but
The-
the book title and all that.
Yeah, when the forensics are there, the first thing we see is that the yard has been dug up, and that they say, well, we found some bodies, but
They're not bodies.
They're mannequins.
Yeah.
And we did a DNA, and an analysis of the blood, and it's all pig's blood.
So the kids aren't dead. Yeah.
So the kids are so as far as we know, the kids aren't dead, and we found this pig's head in there. So it's obviously from the pig.
And they think he's play acting as a serial killer. We think this guy was pretending to be a serial killer.
Right. So that is true, but also not true at the same time.
It's true because as we find out later, this guy is another abused, traumatized kid that this trafficking ring has used as a scapegoat.
Yes.
And the snakes tie into it, the mazes tie into it. And the fact is that they find this book. I think it's called the Invisible Man or something.
Yep.
The whole point is that it's the book's about a child predator that kidnaps kids or whatever. And the detective tells Loki, we think this guy was kidnapped as a kid, and then he was released, and then he reads this book and he assumes that the Invisible Man kidnapped him. So now he wants to be the Invisible Man, and that's why he's play acting as this serial killer. He wants to be the Invisible. He thinks he is the Invisible Man,
and that's what they think. But of course, these guys, their job is to do the physical analysis, right?
And the maze. Sorry to cut you up. The maze is from that book.
Yes,
that's the important part.
So what that guy doesn't understand is because he says this thing where he goes, we found the book, and it's apparently about what you just said, totally discredited for the most part. And that right there is like Loki. If you look at it from Loki's perspective, it's like it's not totally discredited. Number one, you're the debunker, right? So which means that it's probably true, right? So Loki, by the way, has lived this, so he knows about the kind of invisible man, because the invisible man, as we're going to find out, is invisible because
the kids are drugged.
Because they're drugged and they can't see faces. And so it starts to be this thing about like the Spectre man has kidnapped them, because are they in a dream? Is it a never-ending nightmare like this guy lives through, where he has to now operate in this sort of nightmare world? Is it a dream? Am I, is this really happening to me?
Yep.
But the point is that all the little things start to connect, and he sees the maze, and he hasn't put it together yet that he's seen the maze before. That's when he goes back to the police station.
Right.
And the guy has murked himself. He goes into his office. He smashes the keyboard. He throws everything around the office.
Yeah.
We see the sigils tattooed and the runes tattooed on his fingers.
Right, the 8-pointed star on his neck. That's the Anunnaki sort of symbolism. Yeah.
We also see the camera's perspective is interesting because it changes to a God's eye view. So we see him from above. We're looking down on him, but then what we find out is we're looking down on him because the perspective is going to shift again to him looking down, because when he throws everything off of his desk, he has the little, like we mentioned, the RV, the little toy that falls on the ground, and then he sees the photographs
of the dead body in the
laid out
basement.
one. He sees the dead bodies, and then he sees the dead body of the guy that was found in the priest's house, and on the dead body, of course, is the medallion with the maze on it.
Exactly.
And then he puts that together with the other thing, and he says, this, I found it. Basically, this
connected.
is it.
Yeah, it's connected.
Yeah,
it doesn't really solve the riddle, but he realizes where he's seen that maze before.
But this is interesting because it's like everything is connected. Everything's always been connected in this, and in life things are connected. But like the debunkers, right, are like, no,
we caught him. He killed himself. That's
right. And I understand that they have to have the kind of empirical evidence in order to solve, legally to solve the crime, but they don't understand the sort of the metaphysical and the esoteric nature of the crime that they're dealing with.
Exactly. The fact that this is a ring, this is a circle.
Right.
This dealing with symbolism and stuff
Yes.
like that.
And so the viewer is put in this interesting situation where you're thinking, no, this is just physical, right?
Right.
Or is there something more to this? Is there something symbolic? There's the obvious,
Spiritual.
yes, there's the obvious, the symbolism, but is this just going to be a red herring? Is
Right.
this just are we now? It's like, are we crazy for
Mhm.
thinking that something else is happening when it's not? And we find out to the credit, of the movie, which is
Right.
why I think it's a great movie, that the thing that we were afraid of happening in the movie is much worse
Yeah.
than we imagined it would be.
Yeah. So let's before we get ahead of ourselves, let's pick up where we were. So after basically Alex tells them that they're in the maze. We cut to Keller going to Alex's aunt's house,
Yeah.
the old lady, right? The old knitting lady.
Uh,
He goes to her house and she says, "Can I help you?" And he introduces himself again, and he's like, she opens the door. She goes, "What do you want?" And he said that he feels bad about punching him in the face and Alex and scaring him. He feels responsible since Alex ran away. He feels like because I punched him and scared this like retarded, adult that's in a child's body, or
uh-huh.
vice versa, or whatever, um, that he feels responsible for him running away, and so he wanted to come by and maybe wait, hang on a second. Let me not get out of myself. So he says he feels bad for scaring him, and he wants to talk to her basically. So she invites him in. We find out that the aunt and her late husband were once devout Christians, and she tells him that they spent a lot of years, her and her husband, driving around basically in the RV, handing out pamphlets for Christianity. Basically, they were out, evangelizing the people.
Sure.
And she said, yeah. And she said, I believe that part. I do. I do honestly think that they're telling the truth there. Well, let's wait to get
Yeah.
into that. But she was driving around in the RV with her husband, handing out pamphlets. And she says, after our son died of cancer, we then lost our faith. Adopting Alex helped, but we never got over it. That's where I want to say. That's where I think that they
Hmm.
maybe took the turn, but maybe they were always a part of this ring. I don't know. But then she says Alex doesn't talk very much. After an accident that he had had when he was younger, my husband used to keep snakes. It wasn't that bad what happened to Alex, but now Alex is afraid of them, and it changed him ever since he got bit or whatever. It changed him, which we know we're going to find out is a total lie. Keller sees a newspaper on her table talking about the suicide that happened, talking that Bob Jones killed himself. This is him
Mhm.
realizing, oh, the guy they caught killed himself. Like now so he freaks out and she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you knew about this already. I would have told you." Like, yeah. So he freaks out and he leaves basically right then and there. Then we cut to Loki and his boss. And that's I have in my notes where we see the astrology tattoos on his fingers, and the boss tells him, "Let it go. You lost this one. Find a girl, start a family." And then Loki trashes his cubicle, sees the toy RV fall on the photo of the dead guy in the priest's basement, seeing the maze. And then he gets a call. "Hey, it's Rich. We found something." He arrives at Bob's house. Graves are unearthed. Two mannequins, with one having its head caved in. All the blood they found in the containers was pig's blood. And he says it's like he's play acting. All the clothes were bought and they still had the tags left on them. They talk about a book, Catching the Invisible Man. And in the book, it's about child abductions. Taylor had been abducted for 3 weeks as a kid, and he had been drugged with LSD and ketamine. He never remembered anything, and they never caught the guy. Perhaps he read the book and thinks he was taken by the Invisible Man, and now he's doing his best pretending that he is him. He remembers about the intruder. He finds footprints in the mud. So at this, that's when Loki remembers about the window open. And he
Yeah.
remembers the intruder. So he goes back to Keller's house and he looks outside the window, and in the mud he sees footprints. He's like, "Shit, the intruder, there was a guy here." And
Yeah.
right next to the footprints, he finds the other bunny rabbit sock.
Yeah.
So that's how, because he's asking himself, how, if Bob Jones isn't really the killer, how did he know what the daughter's sock was like? Bob Jones was the intruder. He went into their house and he stole her socks. So he never had the kids in the first
Right.
place. He's running off of the directive of this circle that
Yeah.
basically told him go and steal her socks and put it in these bins, because
Yeah.
they're trying to set him up as a scapegoat. And that's when Loki starts to realize that he's getting set up as a scapegoat.
Yeah.
That Bob Jones was never the kidnapper. So basically, they find at this point, um, he realizes somebody set up Bob Taylor, and then it's revealed that Joy has been found, and Joy's in the hospital. So
Right.
one of the missing girls is now found, and she's in the hospital, and she's
So
been
thank
drugged.
goodness.
Right. It's like, okay.
Right. All right. So thank goodness. All right. So one of the girls is back. So let's find out what happened. Right.
Right.
And we get to the hospital and we see that, Terrence Howard and Viola Davis are there.
Yep.
And then Maria Bello comes in, and then we find Hugh Jackman comes in, and of course, Jackman comes in, and he's
immediately. Immediately.
Where are they? Let me find my daughter.
Where's Anna? He's like, this poor little 5-year-old girl has been drugged with LSD and ketamine.
Get off my plane. Right?
And she's in bed. She's not even conscious. And he's
they
like,
are like, chill the fuck out, dude.
He's like, hey, Joy, where's Anna?
Yeah, we understand, but ours is back here, and you need to chill out.
Right. And the cop and the nurses is like, please, Mr. Dover, like, please let her sleep. Like, he's like, no, we need to find Anna. And then basically, when they're telling him to chill out, but then Joy's eyes start to open, and she sees Keller, and she says, "You were there."
Yeah.
And then at that, he goes, "Oh shit!" And everybody looks at him like, "Oh shit! Like you're the guy. You kidnapped him."
Yeah.
But what Keller's thinking is, "I was there. I was at Alex's aunt's house."
That's right.
So now he just takes off running.
Right. He can't stop to explain it. So he takes off.
He's about to get arrested.
Also, they said, just nod if she's alive. Right. And thankfully the girl does. That's when she opens her eyes. So we know watching it, the girl is alive. We know she's alive.
And we're getting flashbacks too.
Yeah. And she said the thing about they put tapes over our mouths. Right. And then he takes off. Of course, Gyllenhaal shows up. Loki shows up. Hey, Mr. Dover.
He sees him down the hallway.
Yeah. So he takes off running. He gets in that old, construction truck, drives right over that curb. Right.
Yeah. He just books it. And all the cops are chasing after the truck. Yeah.
Right. And then, so of course, Loki goes after him. He goes, I know where you're going. Doesn't tick. I know where you're going. I know where you're going. But
he doesn't know.
He doesn't. So he shows, so then he follows him, but he misses, he loses him, whatever. He shows up to the black site. When he's outside, he hears the screaming and the whimpering
of Alex.
Oh fuck. So he goes inside, and then we know he's found Alex, right?
Yeah. Then we cut to where Keller actually went.
Right. We cut to where Keller went. And is that when we see the headline?
Which one?
The headline about the AJ character, about Paul Dano?
I think No, because that isn't found until the very end that they find out, because at this point they caught Alex or whatever, but now it cuts to we hear like the doorbell ring, and we see Keller outside of a house. We're not sure where. Right. And the door
I'm the carpenter, and I've come back, and he's got a good story. But what's so awesome about this is that both characters are operating in a facade, right?
They're both playing a role.
They're both manipulating the other, and they have to figure out who is lying about whom. And they're both, they're both in this lying mode where he knows that she knows, and she knows that he probably knows.
Yeah,
right?
But he hasn't figured it out yet, I don't think, right? I mean, maybe a little bit.
He knows he was there. He knows that that's where they are. Yeah. And he has to get inside the house first. Now,
but here's the thing. If he does know, he should have handled it a lot better, because we will get into exactly how this
right in the door
and just grabbed it. That's why I don't think he was certain.
This motherfucker, he's got a Beretta in his thing. Why didn't he have it on him, man?
Yeah, so he arrives at the door opens, and we see it's Mrs. Joy, it's Alex's aunt, and she goes, "Oh, you're back."
Yeah,
and
he goes, "A few things around here that needed to be fixed up, and I need something to do. I work construction, and all that stuff. I'm a carpenter. Let me come in."
And she goes, "Drop the facade." She goes, "You don't have to have an excuse to be here. Why don't you just come in and have some tea?"
Oh, she goes, maybe you could come in and make me some tea. I'm such a pathetic old woman. I'm all here by myself.
Yeah, she basically tells him, "I know you just want to talk some more, so you don't have to pretend that you want to fix stuff up. Just come in and have some tea." So he walks in, right, and he puts his back to her, which is why I don't think he was certain yet. He walks right up to her counter, and he puts his toolbox on the counter, and he says, "Listen, I don't want to have to hurt you." And then she goes, "Turn around with your hands up," and she's got a gun on him, and you're like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
And basically,
well, when he says, I don't want to have to hurt you," it's because he knows he's done this before.
Right.
And he knows what he's going to have to do.
Yeah.
but he's not sure what the reaction is going to be. But this time, you mess with Marinka here, right? So Marinka Abramovic is actually the woman, right? He turns
She's not some old lady. She's
around and she's just
she's a sadistic psycho. She's the monster. She's the Minotaur. She's the kidnapper.
exactly.
And so we still haven't connected all this shit yet, but she's got the gun on him, and she basically tells him she says making children disappear is the war we wage against God. It makes people lose their faith and it turns them into demons like you.
Right.
So that's when she reveals that because they lost their son and because they lost their faith in God, they are now waging direct war on God by killing kids.
She's purely satanic.
Yes.
Right. As this is as Miltonian satanic as I think you can be in a movie.
Yep.
She is directly taking action, right, to do everything she can to destroy everyone in every way.
Storming heaven by force or by violence, as Crowley said. Yeah.
The most sick, degrading, depraved thing, right?
Yeah.
And then finally she admits it, and then she says, "You should have seen your face." So again, it's this thing about the seeing the way that people react to this. Right, is what gives her any kind of like pleasure.
And she tells him, she says, when you were here last time, your daughter was just in the other room.
Oh my gosh,
you were right there. You could have saved her,
Right.
And basically that's when she pulls out the bottle of, it's like a little 2-liter soda pop bottle, which is the LSD and ketamine cocktail. And she tells him, about a third bottle will do a man your size. You better drink this.
She says, "Don't reach for that bag, man. Reach for the bag, dude.
Go chase this lady."
Who cares? Yes, I mean she's right there. I mean, but she'll use it, right? She will do it.
She will use it, but she was right up close to him at one point, and I'm sitting there going, "Come on, just grab the gun."
Yeah, and then she goes to the fridge and she gets the black juice out of the fridge, the snake juice out of the fridge. She's gonna send him into the K-hole. She says, "Drink it." Man, does he drink that shit, dude?
He does.
Don't drink it so hard.
I would never drink it, dude. I would never drink it. I'd be like, you'd have to shoot me,
Why not take a sip and spit it in her
face? I was thinking take the bottle and throw the bottle at her.
Right.
Like something. But so basically she makes him drink it and she says, "You're going to drink this so that way you're a little bit more manageable because, I'm an old lady, but you like if once you're drugged, I'll be able to handle you."
Yeah, she speaks to him like a child too, just a little more.
Yeah,
right?
Take your medicine.
He chugs this damn thing, and then they go outside. She's right behind him. At that point, if he wasn't such a lightweight, I guess he could have taken over, but he's immediately he's about to start retching.
Right. She leads him into the driveway, and she puts him into the Trans Am. She tells him turn the car on, and she's got the gun right up to his head. And she goes, now reverse it. So he starts reversing the car. Okay, stop. Shut the car off. Get out. So get out. And then she goes, and you see that underneath the Trans Am was a big piece of plywood. And she says, lift it up. And you realize, there's like a secret hatch down here.
That's the hole. That's the hell hole.
And he goes, "Is my daughter down there?" And she goes, "Find out. Open it up." He opens it up, and it's just a black pit. You don't see anything inside of it. And she says, "Get in." And he says, "You're going to have to shoot me if you want to get in." To which she does. She shoots him in the leg. And now
say that. She's going to shoot you, man.
Right. So she shoots him in the leg. He falls to the ground, and now he crawls up to the hole and puts his legs in the hole. And I'm going, "What? Dude, what?" Like I never get in the hole. Never.
But it's he thinks that if he gets in the hole, he can see his
daughter will be there. Yeah,
she'll be in there, and she even says like your daughter was in there. We had to keep her in there when you came over to the house. We should have just left him in there.
She tells him that once he drops him. Yeah. So basically, she I think she might have kicked him in the final way, but he drops him there, and she goes, "Yeah, your daughter. We kept your daughter in here for a few days." She said, she goes, "Boy, I hope," she goes, "if you stay down here and you make a tourniquet out of your shirt and like tie up your gunshot wound, you might survive another 24 hours. She goes, "I'd love for you to be down there when we drop your daughter's body down there."
Jesus.
And it's like, fuck, dude.
The thing about in the house, she said the thing about I will shoot you because I'll make your daughter come in here and clean up your brains off the floor.
Right.
Like, man, oh my God, this movie is
so dark. She's so evil. So so she throws him down in the hole, and then she covers it up, and then he basically takes out a little flashlight that he had, and he's looking around, and he finds the red whistle. He
Yeah,
finds the daughter's red whistle.
he's in Stygian blackness, right?
Yeah.
Like in Paradise Lost.
Yeah.
He's in utter darkness, and then he finds a light in the dark, and then that leads him to this little totem, which is the whistle.
Right.
And all the little things in this movie will play a part, right?
Right.
So now we have him in darkness, but he's got the whistle. And then what happens?
So at this point now, we know he is now trapped and he's bleeding out. And Loki arrives at the aunt's house. Anna is locked in the back room of Mrs. Jones's house. Mrs. Jones sees that Loki's there, so then she goes into the room and she starts preparing a syringe of what we find out is snake venom. That's how they kill the kids. They literally inject them intravenously with snake venom, which again ties in with the snakes at Bob Jones's house, and it also is obviously it's the serpent waging war on God. Like it's pretty messed up. So she starts preparing this syringe, and then Loki outside. I forget what okay, so he's knocking on the door. Mrs. Jones probably wants to tell her, hey, we found your son, or we found Alex, and there's no answer. He tries the door, and he walks in. Mrs. Jones, he doesn't hear anything. He's looking around. He goes into the living room and he sees a picture of her husband. He picks it up. He notices the medallion that the husband's wearing, and then he realizes, oh fuck, it's her.
And the husband is basically Bob Weir, right? Bob Weir,
hippy dippy, totally hippie.
On tour with the Dead in '75 in front of his creeper van with the damn Satan Labyrinth medallion on it.
And they're the worst kind of hippies because they're those evangelical hippies, right? So they're cult members. They're cult members that use Jesus, but they're like totally following the Dead in their RV, handing out pamphlets.
Were they? I mean, was he a snake handling guy? And they were actually, they were Christian, or
I bet you they were. I bet you they were.
Or were they just subverting this whole thing in the first? Well, why would he have the medallion?
That's the question,
right? That is clear. That's their cult.
Yes.
Right. That's their thing. So were they like? I guess it doesn't matter whether
it all depends on when the picture was taken. Because if the picture was taken before their son died, then it's like, okay, maybe he's always in a cult. But if the picture was taken after his son died and then he's got the medallion, it would tell you that. So it's never really revealed. But either way, these people were evil, psycho, child trafficking monsters.
No, this is the Finders cult.
Right, exactly. And so
she said the thing about when we've been taking them for a long time. We took our first one whenever. And that, what does she say? I slowed down for a little while after my husband, disappeared. But I was lonely and then I was lonely with Alex gone.
Right.
Whatever, or only with Alex.
Yeah. She's like, he's good company, but he doesn't talk much.
Right. Yeah. Because they did this to him. Right. So well, I guess after we finish our analysis, we'll talk about some of the things that tie.
Let me finish up the because we're right at the end now, pretty much. So Loki then sees the picture, realizes it's her. I'm in the house of the kidnapper. So then he starts running around looking for her. He finds the room where Anna is drugged up, and she's laying there, and we see Mrs. Jones basically hovering over her with a syringe right at her arm. You're like, is she gonna inject her? Isn't she? Show me your fucking hands. She then stands up, and without looking at him, she says, make sure you cremate me. I sure as hell don't want to be buried in some box, which is a huge thing right there. Number one, she doesn't want to be buried because she's been burying kids for years, and she has that little hole that she throws them in. She don't want to go in the ground, number one. But number two, burying is a Christian tradition. The pagans cremate their dead. The pagans have always, funeral pyres and stuff. And so that's just one more layer of symbolism as far as it's the sort of devil waging war against God. As her last thing she says is, make sure you cremate me. I sure as hell don't want to be buried in somebody.
She thinks she wants to be, obliterated as if her soul never existed and scattered to the wind. Instead of facing the fact that she's going to, face judgment.
And I said that wrong. She doesn't stand up. She's about to inject the little girl, and she doesn't stop. So Loki shoots her, and then she says that. So then Loki picks up Anna, who is now like drugged out, and
turns around. When she turns around,
that's right. She shoots him
off a shot. He fucking blasts her.
She shoots Loki in the head.
In the head,
right here. It grazes him, but it
That's right.
grazes him so much that he's bleeding out like pretty
Yeah, so
profusely.
so the timing in this is amazing because the very like it's down to her finger movements, right,
Mhm.
doing the injection. And you know that he senses that, but
Right.
he doesn't know because she's blocking what she's doing.
Right.
And then when she shoots him, he gets her and he picks her up. And when you're, God, I remember watching this the first time and just thinking, man, get in the fucking car and go, dude.
Right.
Go.
Right.
And he is trying, and it's so cool the way they show this
Yeah.
because he's in the car. He's like, it's almost like a dream, like he's floating through the traffic.
And it's like Reservoir Dogs with the blood in the eyes driving.
He's going so fast and he's on
Yeah.
these roads and he's swerving. He goes through every light. Like, dude, turn the fucking siren on, first of all.
And you're certain he's gonna crash because
Yeah,
he's
you are.
losing consciousness. The Anna is dying in the back
Yeah.
seat.
He's
Blood's down his face.
and he's saying, don't die, don't die. And man, oh, you're just like,
Yeah.
get there, man.
Right.
And the blood is going into his eye.
And then you get the
he's got one
POV
eye
shot.
visible.
You get
Yeah.
the POV shot from his perspective, and you realize he can barely see anything.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't see anything. And
and
then the
he's
next
swerving.
thing he sees emergency outside. So
And
he's
he made it.
Somehow he's made it to the place
Mhm.
and gets out. He slips when he gets out of the car,
Mhm.
right? And he's slipping on the ice. He goes around, he gets her, he runs in for, help.
Yep.
And
She's saved.
Yeah.
That's when okay, so he goes in, somebody help, somebody help.
Yeah.
They're like, thank God he's made it. The girl is saved, and then we get the image of the newspaper that shows Alex's face, and it says Alex Jones, or it says child reunited with his family after 26 years. Keller is still missing.
Yeah.
And so basically it's like, oh shit, Alex was one of these kidnapped child abuse victims, just like Bob Jones. They were being basically raised as scapegoats.
That's right.
As red herrings.
Like Alex Jones, aka Barry Midland.
Yeah, something like that.
So, so in other words, when he said, "I'm not Alex,"
he was
telling the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So also, did the damn biatch Satanist woman name him this?
Right.
Because that was another way of her waging war on the prison planet.
You know that that Denis Villeneuve, if he's the one that, if he's the one that wrote it, whoever wrote this, they know who Alex Jones is. And like
but are they also saying this guy seems, everybody thinks that he's a weetard, right?
Mhm.
But actually he's not. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And I do want to say the whole reason I've been actually using the weetard word is because we are using it clinically in the sense like he is actually like
Yes.
But yeah, so the Anna is saved. We see that newspaper, and then we cut to Loki in the hospital. He's getting all stitched up, and Anna's mom basically comes in the room. Loki's got the bandage on his head, and we see Anna in a little wheelchair on the outside of the room. And basically, the wife Grace comes in. She starts talking with Loki, and she's like, he's still gone, but you probably don't believe me that he hasn't contacted me.
Yeah.
He's like, let's just say I believe you. So basically she tells him, I haven't heard from Keller. I don't know where he is. And I know you probably think I do, but I really don't.
Yeah.
And then she basically asks him, she goes, if you find him or when you find him, is he going to go to jail for kidnapping Alex? And he's like, yeah, probably. And then she starts to cry and says he's a good man. He did everything he can to save Anna, and I think he did save Anna.
And I love this because the way that they show it, like the look, he doesn't have to answer, and you know what he's thinking. He's thinking, good man or not, it's not up for him to say.
It's the law.
But she also says to him, she says, "Are you going to find him?" And he says, "Yeah."
I think so. Yeah. He basically she says, "Do you think you're going to find him?" He's like, "Yeah,"
because he will.
Yeah.
He hadn't lost anybody, right?
Right.
Man,
so then
was shot in the head, right?
Yeah. And then too, you're thinking though, like, how long has it been? It's probably been a day or two or more for the article to have already come out, but it's probably only been a day. But so then Loki is immediately right back out on the case, and he's standing outside of Mrs. Jones' house, and you've got the CSI crew, and they're digging holes looking for people. Somehow they still haven't found the fucking trap door, which come on.
And they're playing music. Yeah, they're playing their little tunes out there. So there's
what was the song? What was the song?
I don't remember the song.
I remember when I heard it, I was like, oh snap, they're playing that song. It was Radiohead. They were playing a Radiohead song.
Right.
No Surprises, I believe.
Yeah.
It was something. It was
somebody in the chat, can you look that up? What's the song they play at the end of Prisoners?
Yeah, please? I forget. But it was a Radiohead song.
Movie.
And so yeah, so the Loki's just kind of like he's just like walking around looking, and the guys are wrapping up for the day. He's like, "Hey, did you find anything?" And they said, "No, but the ground is frozen shut. It's
Yeah.
snowing at this point." And they're like, "Yeah, the ground's frozen shut. There's nothing that we're gonna get done tonight." And they have these big floodlights,
Yeah.
all over the place. And they're like, "All right, we're gonna start wrapping up." They start shutting off all the lights. They leave, and Loki is still there walking around looking. And then we hear the whistle go off, and
Yeah.
that's how the film ends.
The ground is frozen shut, indicating that there's something in the ground that isn't frozen, right?
Yeah.
That there's going to be a way into the ground that's not frozen. Also, it's frozen because they're at the ninth circle here in a way. They're at the deepest, darkest place of the movie because
Right.
it's still not over, and we've yet to find the cavern where the guy is.
Right.
And like you said, when the movie ends in the best possible way because he hears the whistle and he kind of turns and he's like, nah. And then he
It
hears the
happens
whistle,
again.
and you can tell it's a whistle and not a cricket or a bird because it has the inhale. It has the inhale of when you have a whistle, right? It makes a different sound when you're exhaling through the whistle, and then it turns, and he knows. We know that he's there. We know he's found him.
I do hate how it doesn't give you the closure to really find out if he's gonna find him
No, I
or
like
if he's alive, but
I
it
think
is
that's perfect.
because you do know he is gonna find him.
You know he's going to find him. You know
He's not gonna give up. Yeah.
You know he's going to find him, and you also know that he's still alive because this guy has a life force, right? I mean, look at him through the movie. He's willing to do anything to find her, and that means he's also willing to do anything to survive, right?
But he's gonna go to jail. It sucks. He's going to jail probably for like 10 years.
Yeah, he is, but who gives a shit, man? This guy's a hero in a way.
Yeah.
Right?
But he did become a monster to fight
He,
the monster.
he did, but I'm saying in there, right? He's, I mean, he's probably, but whatever. Who cares, man? He's, his daughter's alive, right? And and then the movie ends. So
the pagan saves the Christian. They both have their own investigative procedures to find the missing girl. They both basically work together without realizing that they're working together to solve the case.
So do you want to mention the perennialism and the sort of perennialist?
Yeah, so Loki, obviously, he seems like he's coming from that perennialist worldview because he has the Freemasonic ring, right? He's got the sort of Anunnaki tattoo. He's got astrology symbols. He's got Nordic runes tattooed on him. He's got all of these different various religious traditions. He even has a cross tattooed on his hand.
Yeah.
So clearly, this guy isn't going in. He's seeking enlightenment, basically. That's what the Masonic ring represents. He's seeking enlightenment through all these different various traditions. And the film sort of sets up that sort of dichotomy between Christianity and paganism or perennialism. And in the end, it's the pagan that solves the case, kind of, or it's the pagan that is sort of depicted like the Chad Alpha character, right? And so that's what I think is that subtle Hollywood like subtext, that sort of low below the belt kick to Christianity that the film is giving. It's not a huge thing in the film. It's just like a little poison pill that's dropped in there. But that's definitely, I got that a lot from this film when I was watching it. So I was like, okay, because it's the Christian who drops his morals. It's the Christian who then subverts his thing. He can't even say the prayer anymore. So it's kind of saying like, where's your God now? Your kids are missing and you drop it, and you know what I mean. There's just that kind of like little.
But it's also showing that that was her whole purpose throughout, right? Was to destroy his Christianity. So in a way, it kind of shows you that he lives she's sincere, and that he lives in they live in this fallen world. I mean, he literally falls. He falls into the Satan hole at the end.
Yeah.
Right. Which you will be brought out of, I know, by the pagan character.
Right.
But that there is hope at the end of this. They find the girls, and that hopefully, his faith is intact, right? Hopefully, because she says her faith was destroyed, which, I wonder, everything else she's done in this whole movie is a lie, right? Everything she said is a lie. Her whole life has been a lie. So she's the accuser. She's the liar. So I wonder if this is Governor Ventura calling in.
I don't believe you.
This is Governor Ventura calling in. I want to talk to you guys about this movie, Prisoners. It's a lot like Quezon. She's a liar. This woman's a liar. But like, she's a liar.
Right.
And he falls into the hole, but at the end, hopefully he comes out of it with his faith intact. right? And yes, he's fallen, and he was, you know, and he did these things, but hopefully he can, you know, hopefully he can redeem himself, or hopefully he can, you know, ask for, you know, search for redemption, and you know, ask for forgiveness for what he's done. The lady had no wish for that. That was the opposite of what she wanted to do. In fact, she wanted not only for her own faith to be destroyed, she wanted to destroy everyone else.
Yeah, because she literally says this, and after she says this is the war we wage on God, she says it destroys people and turns them into demons. You know?
Which is interesting because turns them into demons like her. Right. As if she's going to be some sort of, I mean, this is what they often say about serial. I mean, Son of Sam said this in his, JD showed this in one of his analyses 2 summers ago, that talking about Son of Sam, that he talked about how when the whole idea of the dog and Samhain was that they wanted to, and his program to kill letter was that he wanted to take his victims so that they could be his slaves in hell. So that is sort of her idea, except she wants to make a hell of her own. You know, it's like in Milton, right? To make a heaven of hell and a hell of heaven. That, you know, she wants to but what she wants to do is so twisted. She wants to destroy creation in every way that she can. Right. And she succeeds in that in a lot of ways, in the sense that the characters have this rift between them. They all start to accuse each other. No one trusts each other. They all sort of fall apart. But hopefully in the end, that has not happened. You know, now the other thing is the lingering effect of what's happened to the daughters, because obviously they'll never get, you know, hopefully they will, but they will never get over this. And that ties in with the AJ character, because I think that one thing that I saw watching this movie that I couldn't help but tie into is the fact that he is basically like a Johnny Gosh character. And there's not so much we can say about this, but in the Conspiracy of Silence, and all that stuff, and the tunnels under the certain place in the I don't know how to say it, just the McMartin trial, you know, you guys can read it out yourself. We can't really talk about it here, but his story is pretty much except for he wasn't found, is exactly the thing that happened to Johnny Gosh. And so he's kind of that character. He obviously, they took him, and then they ended up using him. Same with Bob Jones. I don't know what, you know, and like you said, I like that your point was that they continue to use Bob Jones, or at least he's part of this circle of people that continue to do things for the cult.
Well, just like Alex, you know, Alex is being handled by Mrs. Jones. He literally lives with her. Well, you can assume that that's what they're doing with Bob Jones. That's why he intruded onto their house. You can assume that they're still handling him and giving him directives and stuff.
So, brilliant movie. I really thought. I thought it was so intricate, and again, I loved how this movie was done. The same year as the movie Enemy, which is a similar movie in a lot of ways, in terms of you don't know who is whom in the movie. You don't know the various characters, and Jake Gyllenhaal plays a doppelganger in that movie. There are two sides of him, or there are two of him. I mean, doppelgangers people often misunderstand, because they think that it's like there's an imposter of the person, in terms of like there's another guy who looks like you, or you find, you know, your twin. But the doppelganger is supposed to be your double. It's you. It's exactly you. Like, it's not just someone who looks like you. It is you.
It is you. Yeah, it's a copy.
So I think that these two movies really are great, because again, they're made before Denis Villeneuve was kind of started to make his more mainstream movies like Arrival, and those are great movies. But this one is much more esoteric, folks. It's much more esoteric.
It's esoteric Hollywood, you could even say.
Yeah, that's right. So, you guys are about to read some super chats. Please help us by donating via Cash App is great. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. We really can use your support. Jerry and I are splitting this tonight.
Yes, please.
Thank you for being here with us. Really love it every time we get to talk to our homeboy here.
And if you like it, you know, subscribe Basil the Analyzer, subscribe, go over to my channel, subscribe to Exposing Powerful Lies.
Yes. Shouts out to everybody in the chat. Shouts out to the people who are staying up late in their time zone. Shouts out to Crisp and Mowgli. Yeah, please hit, if you're watching this and you haven't subbed, please hit the subscribe button. Please go over to Jerry's channel, Exposing Powerful Lies live streams, and give him a sub. Go back and watch some of our old streams. We tie in a lot of the old stuff to this. And we really need to get those numbers up. The stream that I did on JD's channel, thank you again to Jay for having me on that channel, is doing really well. Like, it's gonna get up to hopefully to 12,000 views. I mean, that's crazy. That's so awesome.
I was so proud of you when that happened, dude.
Yeah,
I was so proud to see you on JD, man.
Yeah, that was really fun. That was really great. I'm glad we got
it was a great stream, dude. It was a great stream, man. And now you're doing a bunch of streams with our homie David Patrick Harry over at Church of the Eternal Logos. I'm super excited. You're going on Thursday, right?
Yeah. So let's see. I think we're planning on doing it Thursday. So I'm gonna get down to down south on Wednesday night. So yeah. So, and again, please support us, because I got to get this car out of the shop, y'all, and I got to make it really far. And it's Christmas season, and I got to get presents.
Yes.
So I know y'all do too. So, but yeah, we'll be doing it maybe Thursday and Friday night. We're going to be doing some Christmas analyses, some Christmas shows, Christmas movies rather, and Christmas Carol, and a whole bunch of stuff while I'm down there. Yep. So I'll be doing a couple more streams. I still got the sponsored streams to do while I'm down there. So be doing those. If you want to sponsor a stream, drop me $100 and I'll cover. Give me a couple books you want me to do. You can also do that at Jerry's stream. Give him anything you want him to cover. Drop him $100 and he'll do that.
Yes, exactly. Please do. Please do.
So let me read a couple of super chats here. We got one from Victoria. Thank you so much for that $20 super chat. Really appreciate you during for PayPal. And thank you so much. Let's see. We just got one from our buddy Andrew, who sent $15 in Cash App. He says, for Merry Christmas, Kangs.
Yo, thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, sir. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Merry Christmas and blessed nativity to all of our Orthodox brothers and sisters out there.
This one was, let's see, $20. We got $20 from our home girl, Rachel at Base Homeschool Mama. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Wait a minute. Is that Rachel Wilson from Exposing Powerful Lies?
Yeah, that's Rachel Wilson, Based Homeschool Mama from Exposing Powerful Lies, and a couple other places.
A couple, yeah, a few small time things like Tucker Carlson and a few others, but mainly, it's a little inside joke for those of you who don't know.
And Rachel is in the middle of writing her new book.
Yes.
And we look forward to that because she is so good to both of us, so good to all of us, and we love you so much. And we love we love and pray for the whole Wilson family. We love y'all. Thank you to Andy over at the Crucible. Thank y'all so much. Love you.
And buy Rachel's book that's already out, Occult Feminism: The Secret History of Women's Liberation.
There you go. Book. There you go. Yeah, Amazon bestseller.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And on, big time TV.
And look, we all owe her a debt of gratitude because she's teaching women out there everywhere how to not be thoughts. So thank you, Rachel.
Let's see. Big shouts out to my sister for that $20 Venmo. Really appreciate you. She says, Merry Christmas. Can't wait to see you. Sorry your trip was delayed. I can't wait to see you either. And the whole family down there. So it's going to be fun. So thank you very much to my sister. Let's see. Shouts out to Stephen Mulroney for that $10 super chat via PayPal. Really appreciate you there, homeboy. Let's see what else we got. I can't read the super chats on here because we're on StreamYard. So let me see if I can find whoa, there's my let me live.
That's your doppelganger, dude.
I don't want to hear my own voice. How do I hold on? Let me see if I can read the super chats on the actual super chat.
Yeah, you can usually pull up the a new tab and it's not going to like shut down anything as long as you don't X out of the StreamYard tab. So
okay, let me look up.
But yeah, while you're doing that, everybody. Yeah, while he's doing that, everybody, you can check out. I had Rachel Wilson on my channel. You can check out our interview, talk about her new book, Occult Feminism. You can find Basil the Analyzer over on my channel. Actually, his first appearance was on Exposing Powerful Lies ever. That was his very first show we did, talking about Apocalypse Now and conspiracy and literature and film. So if you haven't seen that one and you want to see his very first interview and very first stream really ever, you can find it over on my channel. Who else? We've got a bunch of our friends have come on my show. David Patrick Harry was on. Also, you can find plenty. I'm sure everybody in this crowd already knows, but you can find plenty of like really high tier, good analyses on this channel based on Analyzer. You can find covering Paradise Lost and The Great Gatsby and Frankenstein and just some. I mean, there's been so many amazing episodes, and it made me really happy to see Henley's channel grow and to see people really appreciate the work that he does, because we all knew before he ever even made a channel that if he did this, it would be great and that he had a lot to offer. So it's just been really nice to see other people recognize that too and really dig the work. So be sure to go and check out his back catalog, because it'll teach you some stuff, man. Especially Shakespeare stuff has taught me a lot. So yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate you, homeboy. Randy said, can't donate until after the holidays, fellas, on a budget, but thank you for the content. Yeah, you're welcome, sir. Thank you. And of course we understand that. Let's see. So a couple super chats tonight. Thank you. Shouts out to Hops out there for that $9.99 US coin. Really appreciate you. No comment left. Shouts out to Polymathing, who says new subscriber. Loving the back catalog base lit. So thank you so much. Couple of older super chats I wanted to read because they came in during the week.
Nice.
Let's see. Toledo Dudley said, shouts out to Toledo. We really love you out there. You are the best. She sent 10 Kiwi coin. I think this is the last stream. She said, Merry Christmas, BLA, for the book fund.
Nice.
And also I got a couple of other ones over the week. So I gotta get to those too. I need to read those out because they really helped me out during the week. Let's see. One was from, shouts out to our buddy Andrew, who donated a few days ago. Sent $40. Really appreciate you, Andrew. And then let's see. Sasha sent $10 earlier in the week. So really appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. Shouts out to all of our homies out there. I hope I got everybody. And again, the super chats tonight, I'm going to share with Jerry here, and that will really help both of us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you to everybody. Thank you to all of our friends. Shouts out especially to Kristen at Slowboy Whiteboard. Sorry, my mind is racing. I can't get the words out fast enough. Shouts out to Kristen. We love you so much. Shouts out to Jethro, our homeboy out there. To Block Party Vintage, to Mikhail, Technoir Graphics. Shouts out to the Green Feathers, our homeboy who I saw in the chat earlier. PGF and the Green Feathers. We love you so much. Love you and your family. Pray for you and your family. Shouts out to all of our friends out there. Thank you so much for supporting us. This has been, we're not at the end of the year yet, and we're planning on doing our New Year's Eve stream. But I will say that, this has been such a wild year. It's been, I don't know about you guys. Everybody has their thing, but this has been the best of years and the worst of years in a lot of ways. We've known each other for a while. We're all good friends over, we thank you to JD because we met through Jay, and we've all known each other for a while. So, but it's been, and this has been great. We've both gotten I got my channel started this year. Yours is older than that. And so, this has allowed us all to hang out and stuff. And I love that, but it's also been it's been a tough year, one thing after the other. So we're going to try and tie it up real nice here. And again, you guys, please join us because New Year's Eve, we're planning on, just doing a hangout.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun stream. We're gonna have call-ins open, and we'll be doing that over on my channel if that's still the plan. New Year's Eve spectacular. We'll probably be doing it right around New Year's, right? Like midnight.
We're gonna be doing it. Yeah, we're gonna be rolling in when the ball drops. Right.
That's right.
And hopefully, we know y'all might be out at some party or something, but you can still have it on the live. You can still have it on the live in your pocket. Okay.
That's right. That's right. Give us the views.
We're going to be covering some fun stuff, and we'll be covering the ball dropping, and Jerry knows how to get all the clips up. So
Yeah.
we'll be doing that, and maybe some good, we'll call ins, and it'll be good.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think that's about all I got. Let's see.
Yeah, it's a great film. Everybody go if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's definitely very dark, so just be prepared for like a dark, brutal movie. But it's very well done and it's interesting, and the symbolism it makes it for a thoughtful film
Yeah.
experience. So yeah, definitely recommend this one. Obviously, not to be watched with the children in the room, but
No.
it's a great
Hell
film.
no.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking about maybe streaming tonight. I don't know though. It's pretty late, so keep an eye out. I might end up going live just as like a small little hangout thing after
Yeah.
party, but if so, that'll might be like an hour from now. So I don't know.
I've
Maybe.
watched a bunch of stuff recently. There's a new show. I mean, this is on Netflix right now. There's a new show called The Recruit, which is, it's I guess it's it's a series version of the Colin Farrell, Al Pacino, but it's slightly different, like CIA.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's obviously it's propaganda because it makes them look like, oh yeah, we're having funny stuff too,
Right.
But of course there are going to be revelatory elements of it. But the thing that I watched recently, man, is listen, I'm a Norm fan, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody. Well, you better be. All y'all in the chat better be a Norm fan too, dude. He's the best, man.
Right. Well, I pretty much watched, old Norm clips just for the, you go back to the things, the comfort viewing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went back to the Norm clips and I watched Norm. I've seen everything Norm ever did, a million times, but I went back and watched it for the past like 3 or 4 days.
Right.
But man, I finally kind of got up to watch Norm's final thing on Netflix.
Netflix. Yeah, I watched that.
Dude, it is
Kind of heartbreaking because
it's really hardcore, man. It's for me, it wasn't just heartbreaking. I'm not going to end on this, but I will say, like, it's just him and like a laptop camera and a microphone,
right.
and it's with no audience, and he's telling jokes, and it is it's like the funniest and the saddest thing at once. And I mean, man, this thing made me weep. I gotta say, I mean, it really, really got to me because, and usually, and then they have the after special with Letterman and Dave Chappelle and Conan and them, and usually, these celebs talking about shit, you're like, whatever. But this one was different because they were talking about Norm and who he was and stuff. And the last time that he saw these people, knowing that he was dying, but not telling them.
Right. He didn't tell anybody really. Not even. I don't even think he told his family.
No, and and about his, what, like when Chappelle was talking about when his dad died and how the one guy that was there for him was Norm, and that like he had you just look in his eyes, and I love the one thing I love about Norm, you guys, is that you remember on the special where he was the judge for Last Comic Standing. It's like one season, and the guy got up and he tried to tell this joke, and he told a joke. He joked on religion, joking on Christianity, and Norm like made no bones about it and was like, "This is not funny.
Yeah,
you're making a joke about Jesus Christ."
Right.
And I think it's low and it's stupid and you're not funny.
That's one of the things I love about Norm is that he was so based and so fearless about stating his belief in God.
Yeah, so I love that. So anyway, I'm not going to end on that because that's pretty hardcore.
Right. But, yeah, no. What was I going to say? I had something I was going to say. What the hell? Yeah, Norm was best, man. He's the best.
Yeah. So I would say go back and watch to end on a high note. You guys, I mean, special. And we should. I think we're good.
Back? Are you back? You glitched out for a minute. I think you're back.
Yeah. Okay. I glitched out there for a minute. Okay, connection coming back up. So that'll edit it in the replay. But I got in the car. I was at a Christmas party and I got in the car to leave. And when I got in the car, I turned on Jay's stream and he was going. he said, I put on my big girl pants.
Yes. Yes, big shout out to Jay Dyer who just hit
Oh my!
100K subs, dude.
He
Oh,
did.
that was hilarious, man.
He did Boomer Tunes, and
Yeah, yeah,
when he did Boomer Tunes, and he did Tim the Toolman's like, oh my god, I almost swerved off the road. I mean, it
right,
was
right.
so funny. So
Yes.
anyway, shouts out.
Yeah.
You go back to that one and watch that one. That was probably the funnest one that I've ever seen. I mean, it
Oh
was
man,
really
especially the what was he doing? Improv. He was just spitting rap in the
yeah,
beginning, and it was just killing me, dude. Dr.
yeah.
Phil Boomer
Dr.
rap, and
Phil,
yeah,
listen, you got a great big hole in your heart, okay? Dr. Phil's gonna fill it for you.
yeah,
You want to crawl into a potato sack with Dr. Phil?
yeah, yeah.
Every woman in the country wants to be with Dr. Phil.
But yeah, man, I'm surprised. When we were talking
Yeah,
before we did this, we were like, yeah, this will be a short stream, maybe an hour, but
yeah,
this movie's so thick that
yeah,
I should have known we were going to be able to go for a
yeah.
while. So it's
Well,
really
it's been
glad that we
fun.
were able to do something good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Thanks for being here. We're gonna dip out now, and if Jerry's gonna stream later, y'all keep stay tuned for him. So thank y'all. Appreciate you. I love you. See y'all out there. Peace.
Peace.